Sport drink, Heaven's Harvest Prepper Food. Link in the description. Use the promo code 10% off. Supports the show. Atom Blockchain Cryptocurrency. Use the Telegram link in the description. Please go check them out. They're sponsoring the show just to get more eyeballs on their thing. Make me look good. Go, please click on the Telegram link. Can't do any of that. PayPal, Cash App, Buy Me a Coffee, Patreon, Locals. You guys can support the show. A lot of you guys only do $1 a month. That is incredible. That is, don't think it's nothing. It is not nothing. Every dollar counts. I just want to get away from YouTube, Rumble, and Spotify from essentially owning the show by the balls. If you can only donate to one thing, though, I would ask that you donate to ARC, the Association for the Recovery of Children. It's a 501(c) nonprofit founded in 1993. It's special forces veterans who don't take salaries. They physically rescue sex-trafficked children. It's not an awareness campaign. I always say this. They don't sell T-shirts. They go and physically rescue children and bring them home to their parents. They started in 1993. They've done, I think, one a month since 1993 with a 100% success rate. They do not take salaries, and your donations are tax deductible. So if you can only donate to one thing, donate to that. They're literally rescuing children. If you can donate after, donate to my podcast. Thank you so much, guys. And we are recording on Wednesday, July 29th, 2026 at 2:06 p.m. Eastern time with the bald ones. Jim, what were you just saying about the Fauci? Jim's like, what the fuck? Who's bald? The Fauci? I haven't looked at any of it. I've been getting, as I was telling Tom, I've been getting texts nonstop about it saying you to have on Dr. McCall and Dr. Malone. What all? I didn't even know this was like an item that was to be a thing. The Fauci diary. It sounds like it sounds gay, but I mean, I had no idea.
No, it's very intense. And, Bobby Kennedy spent the last 8 months putting his Health and Human Services spooks sending them into 11 servers to root out all these encrypted diary entries that Fauci left a trail of, unbeknownst to him that, the internet doesn't forget and the servers don't forget. And this diary is just full of the most astounding self-congratulation for his celebrity, and he's just hollering about how great it was to meet Barbra Streisand and talk to Julia Roberts and go to this cocktail party and have dinner with Jake Tapper and his wife and then have dinner with Jake Tapper and his wife again. And, and how great it was that he's getting all these prizes for being Mr. Science. And it just paints a picture of this guy who's preoccupied with his own celebrity while people are dying all over the world. And worse,
the narcissism. The narcissism is really
it's astounding.
Bad.
Yeah. And also, in his diaries, he makes diary entries that basically contradict many of his public pronouncements about very important issues. Whether it's masks or he made one statement in his diary he made statements in his diary about shutting down America in various ways, like communications with the then mayor of New York. Who was that big tall guy?
De Blasio.
About how he wanted to shut down all the bars and restaurants as well as the schools, and then he goes public and says, no, I never suggested that we shut anything down. So they've just got him on 100 different ways of lying to the public and scheming skullduggery. It's awful. The guy's really just a historic, epic villain.
He kind of showed that the whole way. If you're watching, he'd refer to "I am the science" and stuff like that. He would make. I was on a Zoom call with Scott Alice, and he had nothing good to say about Fauci. He sat in the room in the Oval Office with Fauci for 6 months, and he said Fauci made no scientific arguments. Said Birx was pulling shit off the internet, having no idea what it meant, and just making pie charts. And at one point, Fauci went to say encephalomyelitis, which might stump the guy behind the counter at 7-Eleven, but he really ought to be able to say it. And Alice said he butchered that word so badly that Alice said to him, "Come again? What'd you say?" And Fauci would not repeat it.
Yeah, well, the operative thing today was that he took the Fifth Amendment more than 100 times, and now they're gonna, probably the idea is to simply use that as a way of stalling more judicial processes in order to adjudicate, whether or not he had to, he truly had to be compelled to testify under the rules of the pardon. The unconditional pardon, and apparently Rand Paul read from a statute from the language that said explicitly that you have to testify. You can't take the Fifth Amendment if you have an unconditional pardon. So I don't know what it's going to benefit. Also, the other really big outstanding thing, I don't know if either of you saw this, but his lawyer insisted on talking into the mic, and Rand Paul kept on telling him, "No, you do not have any privilege to speak in this hearing at all. This is not a court of law. This is a congressional hearing, and if you keep it up, I'm going to throw you out of the room." And he kept it up, and Rand Paul warned him 3 more times, and then Rand Paul had the sergeant of arms or whoever it was, the security, remove him from the room, and
Really?
then Senator Hawley made several remarks about what a sleazebag or it was a Senator Moreno from Ohio, maybe called that lawyer a scumbag, because he's apparently got a record of defending every scumbag criminal in America. Not that scumbags don't have a right to defense, but anyway,
when you're doing all scumbags, you've kind of defined your career, right?
Yeah.
No. I did. I saw I was busy, unfortunately, this morning, so I didn't get a chance to watch much of it.
That was great.
I saw 2 clips. The one was the lawyer getting thrown out of the room, and he was like, "What? What? What?" I was like, "No, get out." And then the second one was Bernie Moreno, explaining why he ran for Senate so that he could sit there today and ask you, what the fuck was this all about?
I think he said, "Who the fuck do you think you are?"
Oh, yeah, it was something on those lines. Like,
it was kind of shocking.
But you know what?
I didn't know you could use that kind of language in the chamber.
You know what?
But the bottom line is that Fauci has disgraced himself in one 3-hour session. He's completely disgraced himself. Yep. And now, the public's going to have to adopt a different view of who Tony Fauci is and what and it's not going to end there. This thing is going to unravel even more, including the fact that the whole thing was an operation. I mean, if there's any question about why Fauci and Deborah Birx were motivated, Dave, to do the things they did, especially in the task force advising Trump, I think there's no question that the whole reason for it was to create conditions that would allow them to shove him out of office with new election rules, namely the mail-in ballot operation, and it worked.
What's interesting about it's like he's a scumbag, but that lawyer's not stupid, so that tells me that they war gamed it, and the least worst scenario was him just staying there as long as he could, helping him until he got thrown. That's not me going in there, who I have no idea what the rules are. They knew exactly what that was. That was a conscious. That decision was like, this is better than the alternative where I don't say anything. That's
the baseball manager pissing all over the umpire and getting thrown out of the game to try to rally his team.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
which is that's fascinating.
Because what they'll do with that, they game plan. To Tommy's point, they war gamed it out to get to that moment so that they could then use that to campaign on to Democrats. That's what they're going to use it for.
Yeah,
that clip is going to be all over Blue Sky with one set of commentary, and on Twitter it'll be on
Trump's America. You're not entitled to defense. Yeah,
that's what they're going to do.
That's a good move. That's a good move. It's a tactical.
Except Rand Paul handled it so well.
Yeah, please remove him from the way.
He didn't lose his temper, and he kept his cool.
Rand has improved a lot. Rand has gotten good at this game.
Yeah.
He was kind of a neophyte when he got there, and he was trying to kind of be his dad, and it took him a while to get his bearings.
Hey, Dave, you're talking to these insiders like Dr. Who's that guy you talked to today? Scott Atlas.
Scott Alice, yeah.
And you talk to other insiders on your Zoom calls. Do they have an opinion about where this is taking Fauci?
Where it's going to go?
Yeah.
I haven't been on there in a long time. And yesterday I was going to hop on because there was a guy named Paul Vallely who has this odd connection. This is a side story, but still bizarre, where he has been accused by Candace Owens of being dirty as shit in the TPUSA thing. Then I went digging and I found out that he also co-wrote a book with a guy named Michael Aquino on PsyOps.
Satanic Colonel.
That's exactly right. And all of a sudden I started tracking this down. I'm going, I got to get on the Zoom call. And I woke up yesterday with horrific vertigo for the first time. And I was in bed the whole day, was blowing chow. I mean, serious stuff. Good news is my wife is better. My wife is rallying.
No kidding.
Yeah, I wasn't sure.
What do you attribute that to?
But we put her back on the meds.
On the meds? The SSRIs?
Yeah, SNRIs. Yeah. The problem is there were just too many stories of people saying, look, I've been detoxing off these things for 10 years. I'm still not better. And I said, she's going to spend the rest of her life detoxing off this med. It's not worth it.
Well, yeah,
so we've got her on a third the dose. We've got her on a third the dose. And she has rallied back and was laughing and things. And as a consequence, she could go higher. She needs a little more of a kick. But it takes about 6 weeks to get on. So I think we just decided to put the white flag up and just do it.
Just do it. What the fuck's the point?
I'm going to write about it. I think the guys who market these drugs the way they do should be shot. I think they should be executed.
Because of the dependency?
Yeah, here's what I'll tell you. I've read for hours and hours and hours. There's not a single person who tried to get off these who didn't say that it was the biggest nightmare of their lives. There's not a single person. This is not like I went off them without a problem. This guy had problems. Every single person goes off SNRIs, SSRIs.
I was on Zoloft for about 3 months. I went to my mom moved to my town in 1999. And, I hadn't lived around her in proximity to her in like 35, 40 years. And when she moved into my town, because I was the only child and there were no other relatives and she needed to be looked after, I started having anxiety attacks just like I did when I was an adolescent. So I went to a shrink and the shrink said, we don't talk to patients anymore. We just give them drugs. And he put me on Zoloft. And I hated it. It wrecked my libido, and it was like drinking
one of the side effects. Yeah.
9 cups of coffee a day. It made me jittery, and I hated it. So I got off.
My wife was on Effexor, which is considered the worst, for about 15 or 20 years on a high dose.
15 or 20 years. Oh my God.
Yeah. So she, and there was even this problem where one doctor estimated that 40% of the people who try to go back on, it doesn't work. So I was terrified that she had ruined her life completely. And so she seems to be much better now. So we're done with that. The point being is I haven't been to the doctor Zoom group lately, and the doctor Zoom group is pretty thin on doctors now. It migrated. And so, they brought in, this TPUSA guy. I've requested to find out who is the contact within the group that brought in Vallely, because Vallely is clearly a very dubious person at a very, very high level dubious. Mike, I don't know if you know Michael Aquino.
I've heard Michael his name.
Aquino. Well, he's a devout Satanist that founded the Temple of Set. If you look at pictures of him, right? Back me up here, Tommy.
Yeah,
the most fucked up guy you ever saw.
No, he's in the Army, and the Army knew it, and they openly allowed it because he was open about it, and he was in PsyOps. And I guess if you're trying to fuck with people's minds,
MK Ultra. He was running
MK Ultra. He was involved with the Franklin scandal in Nebraska.
That's right.
He curled his eyebrows to look like horns. It's comical.
He is a fucked up looking guy.
How was he involved in the Franklin scandal?
I think he was involved with the guy Lawrence E. King.
I
vaguely remember that. Maybe I'm slandering them both, but
I don't remember that connection either.
They're both pedophiles, and one's a Satanist. I don't really care if I'm slandering them.
Both,
but
actually.
Yeah. At least I don't really fuck them. I don't, but okay, maybe they're not. Maybe I'm just taking Nick Bryant, and because I think I found out about Emma Aquino through Bryant.
I could ask Nick what he knows about Aquino.
I forgot you know him, yeah.
Hey, just to get back on the subject, how damaging do you suppose that all this Fauci business is going to be to the Democratic Party?
Why Democrats?
Well, because Fauci and Deborah Birx and the whole operational task force was doing what they did on behalf of the Democratic Party to bum rush Trump out of office.
Well, except for Trump's, so I get in arguments with Ferris all the time about this, where I say Trump is not guilty of the vaccine because Trump delegated, and he delegated, and then because Fauci got deified, he couldn't have fired Fauci. Period. If he had fired Fauci, every death in the world would be blamed on Trump. He couldn't fire him, and therefore you don't know what Trump really wanted to do. I'd like to find out what his real intent was, but he didn't want to lock down, for example. That comes out. I think out of the Fauci papers that he had to fight Trump to lock down.
Yeah, I think that was. I agree, Dave. Yeah, no, I remember that Trump did not want to lock down.
I think Trump delegated, and then it was totally handcuffed by the delegation that he did, and so I blame Fauci. Right now, I also think that Fauci didn't have to tell so many people to lock down, that there were so many megalomaniacs running towns and cities and states, and all these people just loved the kind of power they were all of a sudden handed to just be puppet masters. And they're all such narcissists. I think it was just trivial. And in the middle of it, we were going to have a recruiting weekend for grad students, and a week before the meeting, we're sitting there trying to figure out whether we should still have it. Within about 2 days was obviously there was no way we could hold the meeting. No way we could have a recruiting weekend. And so the lockdown was such a spontaneous thing. But then it turned into like people like Randy Weingarten, who I've done direct battle with over the years because of her
teachers union
unionized student. Yeah. She did it. She did it for political reasons. She did it as a power play. And that's one of the most egregious things, because we fucked up the kids very badly. Not to mention we killed a lot of people.
Yeah, no. What I'll say to that point, Dave, is I think that don't underestimate the amount of infiltration we have at the local government level for these types of megalomaniacs that were placed in there in
George
preparation.
Soros.
Yeah, well, just not just Soros, but the Soros is like the point guy, but it's much bigger than that. And so I would say, it's very obvious in hindsight, and it was especially bad in the places that I saw. Like, I know, for example, I've said this many times. Like, I live. My house in Florida is literally equidistant between Gainesville, the University of Florida, Shitlib Central, one of the four bluest counties in Florida, and Lake City, one of the reddest counties in Florida, the seat of the reddest counties in Florida. And for 3 years, we went north when we got to the end of our road, as opposed to going south, or as opposed to going to Gainesville, we went to Lake City. So whenever we had to do anything, why? Because they're still wearing masks in Gainesville. Okay. And so the local government there, the university, the local government, and everything else, they're all deeply embedded in this entire thing.
Yeah.
Right.
Invested in it.
It's not just invested in it. So many of them are literally some of the highest level operatives in the Democratic Party in the state of Florida, and in places like Broward and Alachua and Leon, which is Tallahassee, those counties, that's where you see the worst, enforcement of these things. Whereas in places like Columbia County, for example, where Lake City is, the only place where you had to wear a mask was Walmart. All the local businesses,
and that was for your health.
Well,
we didn't. I didn't walk into a Walmart though. Walmart had the person outside of the Walmart in Lake City had them enforcing the mask mandate for over a year. And the only people in Lake City that wore masks were the service people in corporate locations. So if you went to Longhorn Steakhouse, your server was wearing a mask, but none of the patrons had to wear a mask. Right? So it was that kind of thing, and the difference in cultures was stark. Okay, and so I just don't underestimate that. So,
well, to my own point, almost all of this nefarious tyrannical activity took place under Joe Biden's administration.
It did, yes.
And that is going to reflect on the Democratic Party. So whatever they determine about Fauci's culpability is going to really shed a bad light on the party.
I don't think it matters. I think the boat's left in terms of people changing sides a long time ago.
Were the Republicans trying to pry open the system? I don't remember
at the time.
I don't remember
DeSantis, other than DeSantis. I don't think. No, I think they're all fucking in on it too. Yeah.
Right. So that's the problem. I don't think it didn't turn into a partisan battle. Everyone signed off on the vaccine, and
none of them pushed back on Section 230.
The other absurdity, by the way, and you knew there was a problem. There's so many signposts along the way, but one of the things is that it didn't matter what kind of mask you had on your face. It only mattered that you had one. And what I can tell you is the very best masks don't work, not on a virus.
None of them did.
The very best mask.
Half the people around me were wearing bandanas.
That's right. That does absolutely nothing. I mean, that's the absurdity of a higher order.
Unless you might as well rob a bank.
Might as well wear chicken wire across your face if you're going to do that.
No, it made everybody sick.
And compliance was the only requirement, not efficacy. Right. And that shows you, and at no point did the authorities say, hey, TO, you're not wearing good masks. Get with the program. They didn't do that at any point.
It's a
it was always about control. I noted it almost immediately. We talked about it. I used to argue with a friend of mine in my local gaming group who was, is in microbiology of some form or other, in biology, and we had an argument about this. And I'm like, I'm not wearing my mask. This is dumb. He's like, yeah, but if it's airborne, if it's like you're spitting, I'm like, no, stop it.
Bro, shut the fuck up.
Stop it. Please, ready? And then I think my wife was there that night, and I think she had the mask on. She hit her vape, and blew it out through her mask. Like, you know what I mean? Like it's ridiculous. Like,
my issue was I worked at a liquor store at the time, and they were like, "We got to protect health," and I'm like, I see the same guys coming in here at 8 a.m. shaking to get their Fireball to stop shaking, and they're also like asking me, the cashier, like, "Can you wear a mask?" And I'm like, brother, like, I know your order.
So I was in a park one day and I had my dog off leash, and some lady bitched at me. She's sitting in a lounge chair. She bitched at me, I have my dog off leash. And I said, so I view that leash law as kind of a guideline. And and she didn't like that answer. And then I said, oh, by the way, where's your fucking mask?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's the whole thing was that. But I was back to the very first thing about that. So I was saying, like, the lawyer's not dumb. Clearly, that was war games. But when I think about Fauci, I don't think any of these people are stupid. I tend to think that they're malevolent and intelligent. But putting a diary digitally, when you're not just like a random dude writing about your day, when you are Anthony Fauci, isn't it kind of like legitimately stupid?
Well, yeah, but it's the kind of thing that psychopathic criminals and narcissistic psychopaths do
they show their
to incriminate themselves.
They can like it.
But even then, write it down and then leak it. I mean, but to get found out, that's retarded.
That's what they do.
How did they get his diary? How did they get his diary?
It's all encrypted and online.
Robert Kennedy had a panel of technicians who rooted it out of 11 servers at Health and Human Services. He said so the other night on the news.
Well, the other thing is the lab leak theory, which kept us preoccupied for an entire year or longer. I think they liked that debate. I think that was kind of a limited hangout debate because they could, in the worst case scenario, they could blame the Chinese, and we were not asking more fundamental questions like, is this whole thing a hoax?
Right. Yeah, no, absolutely.
Did they do it on purpose?
Yeah.
Well, they might have released it at the military games. That's one of the theories, because the military games clearly got it. And people say it's not even a virus. That's not true. I mean, there was a sickness. People got really sick. But it was a bad flu. It was a bad flu.
I think this thing is reversing really hard, and that it's going to change the way the whole episode was recorded in history.
I certainly
hope so.
Well, I think that's inevitable. And I think
it's already happened, actually.
I think they just hoped it would happen like 20 years later.
But you can't find a person who's proud. It's very hard to find a person who's proud of all the jabs they got.
Not anymore.
Most people are apologetic. Most people have
their in-laws all have
there are a couple psychopaths that still comment on my videos saying like, you're still spewing anti-vaccine propaganda. I'm like, it's 2026, dude.
Those are bots.
Yeah, those are bots. I can tell you, having just left there, that no, there is a significant portion there's a significant portion of the city of Gainesville. There are people still riding around the cars in masks.
I'm in Portland, Maine, dude. Yeah, every day.
I'm serious. Like,
mask
up. Man, they're still doing it. Like, it broke a lot of people, and they need to feel that.
They need to feel like they weren't that stupid.
I don't think it broke them. I think it just showed them.
Well, I know. I mean,
those are broken people.
They are broken people, and for a variety of reasons. It could be not just, what you said, Dave, but it could be a number of different reasons why. No one wants to admit that they're wrong. Man, John Bark, man can do no wrong, right? Which is another way of saying, I never think I'm the villain in the story, right? So there's always that aspect of it. The thing with Fauci, and you could see it even during COVID, you could see that he was laughing at us the entire time. You could see it. I saw it the minute I saw through it. And for me, I was willing to give them the benefit of the doubt. We've talked about this before, just to remind everybody. In 2020, when the minute Trump said, "Well, we heard about this thing with hydroxychloroquine that might actually fix it," and immediately that became a dirty word. We were not allowed to talk about hydroxychloroquine. We weren't allowed to talk about ivermectin, all this stuff. I'm like, oh, it's an operation. I'm like, I was willing to be reasonable about it and say, okay, maybe this is real. And then once we got to that
can be interpreted as them wanting to try the vaccine because they couldn't legally do it if hydroxychloroquine was a treatment.
Right.
It turns out federal statute says you can't release a vaccine on emergency use only unless there's no alternative, right? So they had to take away the alternative. Now, what did they do? Here's where it gets really hyper criminal. Remdesivir was killing people left and right, and they knew it. And that became the preferred treatment. So they knowingly slaughtered thousands, maybe millions of people giving them remdesivir.
And they gave the hospitals cash incentive of like up to $35,000 per
tiered.
death certificate.
They intubate them.
And it was tiered.
To do the remdesivir program.
Respirators, there was a checkbox, man. If they get all this shit, 30, 50, someone was up to like 100,000 per death.
Something like 98% fatality rate off the respirators.
Yeah.
It was really outlandish. And then I remember videos of nurses. I wrote a ton about this through those 2 years. Nurses screaming at the top of their lungs saying, you do not need to intubate this patient. He's breathing okay. He'll be okay. Just let's treat him. And the nurse would be screaming at the doctors, and then she'd go off shift and come back and he was intubated.
Well, the amazing thing about this is how the doctors have utterly disgraced themselves and the vocation of medicine to the degree that many Americans, huge numbers of Americans now regard them as no better than 17th century quacks operating out of barbershops.
They did the impossible. They destroyed the facade. They destroyed the respectability of like, hey, listen to the guy in the white coat. He's just trying to
lawyers. They're now lawyers.
Holy fuck. That's impressive what they did.
Well, I'll tell you what problem we face now. And you can see it in the education. In this SNRI battle of mine, at one point, our new GP, who I do like, but she's young, she said, we follow protocols. And that term protocol clicked. And I go, oh my God. So she's got to follow protocols. If your cholesterol level is this high, then they got to put you on statins. And who writes the protocols? Pharma writes the protocols. And so now, a couple problems here. One is one time I saw Stanford's surgical residents. They said, welcome to our 16 new surgical residents. There was not a white boy in it. There was not a white boy in the surgical residency team. That is statistically impossible, right?
And also probably a big talking point for them in their institution.
1,000%.
Yes. Brownie points galore.
Dude,
now,
I've
the
been
other
puns
thing
intended.
is
All puns
we have a
intended.
fundamental problem because
Yeah.
the doctors who know how to do it are retiring.
Dude,
So I have so many friends who say, I had a great GP, but they retired. My wife, we had a great GP, but then he retired. And now we're left with these formulaic, here's a blood test, here's a scan, here's a medicine.
Well, does this young new primary care doctor of yours have any self-awareness that she's just being used as a tool?
I don't know, but what did show up is, so the problem we had is we were switching GPs right when the shit hit the fan. So it was really an awful situation.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
In our first meeting with her, she's trying to get her arms around this massively complex patient. My wife said 60 surgeries. She's a massively complex patient and deal with a massively complex problem simultaneously. So she inherited a whopping problem. So then she sent us to a therapist to help cope with some of the anxiety attacks, which are profound. Mm-hmm. And she was way too much touchy-feely, huggy bullshit. But then she said, we have a telecommuting health person who can check in on you for typically 20 minutes. You talk to her, you'll never see a shrink, but she talks to the shrinks. And we got one of them, and she was good. And so at first she seemed a little cold, but then I realized, no, she's cold and calculating. And she talked to the shrink. The next day, our doc calls, and all of a sudden the whole mood of the medical system had changed. And they were on red alert because they realized the magnitude of what my wife was facing.
I will tell you,
they responded correctly.
Well,
they responded correctly. Yeah.
I will tell you, as somebody that was interviewing med schools in September, October, November 2013 at Miami, Los Angeles, and New Orleans, respectively. I scored in the top 3 percentile on the MCAT, magna cum laude, published research. And I remember I would go in there and I'd be sitting around with guys who looked functionally retarded. And one of them was actually my friend. He was a black guy. And he looked at me and he was a guy that actually had a higher GPA and MCAT than me. So fuck me. But I remember at one point everyone leaves the room. It's just him and I sitting next to each other. And he looks at me and he goes, fuck, man, I'm so sorry. And I was just like, yeah, I know. And he was just like, your parents still married? I was like, yeah. He's like, white boy from a country club. I was like, I'm fucked. And he was like, you're not getting it anywhere. And I was like, yeah, I know. But that was like, even that was just, the people that got in were fucking retarded. But it didn't matter because you had a heartbreak story about your dad's from New Delhi. God bless. But if your MCAT's in the 50th percentile, and your GPA is in the 30th percentile, hey, go for it. And it's all the brownie points. But that's eventually the chickens are going to come home to roost. You're asking where did all the smart people? A lot of them were turned down at the fucking door because they were white. And I'm telling you that personally.
I was just talking to an undergrad chem major, and we have kept our grade inflation fixed for 35 years. And so we have the lowest grades in the university. He's a chem major, 4.1 GPA, did not get into med school.
Yeah, I got the single highest, not an A. I got the single highest score in organic chemistry 1 and 2 out of all of UGA, back-to-back semester. And the professor wrote, like, this is insane. This kid's autistic. Like, he might be the psychopath. Like,
he is, actually.
Yeah, he is, yeah. So that's where it went. And then, so the older ones retired during COVID, but if you're asking where the new batch is, they were all told to fuck off because they're straight white men. That's just what it is.
Right.
So
there's truth in that.
Well, nature has a way of accommodating these things. And, I'm a big fan of the theory of emergence. And I'm just sure that what'll happen is that medicine will reorganize itself organically.
It already is. I'll tell you what it's doing. My brother has
a lot of people are going to die first.
My brother has what's now called a concierge doctor, who's basically a doctor. That's right. I do not, but I probably should. And
$1,200 a year for the right to
get access.
He takes care of kind of pissant problems immediately. You need doxycycline for a tick bite. he calls it in within an hour.
I get that from India.
Well, yeah, but
you guys
easier
are right.
to get.
My wife and I have been doing the concierge thing for years. For basically since Obamacare came into effect, because I'm like, I'm not giving them $12,000 a year for no care.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not doing it. And I actually right now I have zero health insurance, like none. No.
Yeah, that would scare the fuck out of me. My wife probably drained $4 million out of the system.
Fair. But what I want to say is the following, which is that it's going back to Tommy's point originally. Isn't it impressive how they destroyed our faith in the medical system with COVID? Mm-hmm. The whole point of all of this, if you take it from a strategic or operational perspective, was destroy the institutions of civilization,
any respectability,
demoralize.
It's like immigration destroyed the idea of borders. If you look at these things, they all seem to have sort of destroy the nation state thinking.
Yeah.
Yep.
Destroy higher education. They've succeeded there.
I mean, you got to do this.
And then K through 12.
I could do the Trump dance, but the truth is that I've been screaming. This is the hallmark of the globalist system that has existed for centuries, and this current outpost is headquartered in the city of London. And this is what I mean when I say that the United States is under multiple layers of attack to destroy what was a civilizational society. Like, we had that, and it's been a systemic thing. Colonel Watkins talks about it from the Fabian Society perspective. We can all go through it. We all have a piece of that story, but when you put the whole thing together, there's only one group of people pushing that idea. Now, part of it is emergent in that it's what scares me is that it's now, some of it is Star Chamber stuff, some of it is directed. A lot of it at this point is organic. It's a standalone complex feeding on itself.
Self-reinforcing.
It's a self-reinforcing standalone complex. No one can figure out where the origin is. And some of us are trying to figure out where the origin story is. But at this point, it's just a bunch of people. It can just as easily be a bunch of people doing shit, and they have no idea where they got these ideas pushed into their heads. But it's gonna it's gonna
like,
have
hey,
to
boomer,
continue.
like, hey, boomer.
Bingo.
The boomer, the hatred of boomers is insane.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you actually think about it, it really has nothing to do with age bracket. We just happen to be in the fourth generation model. We happen to have just gone through the period of maximum political influence.
That's what the comedian Ray Kump always points out. He goes, everyone mad at boomers. He goes, you're just mad that you didn't. He goes, and I get it. You're just mad that you didn't get the candy. I was born in 1990. If I was born in 1958 and none of the hindsight shit, you don't have the internet, if you're just born there and you go to college and you get a sick job out of, like,
you had a good deal.
How many of them were like, but what are the implications of this 40 years down the road? No, you're 21 years old. You're like, I got a fucking job. Hell yeah. Like, and the only reason we're mad now is because we're getting stuck with it. And then the next Generation Z, who's going to go all die in World War III, they're going to hate us because we were born 30 years prior. We're going to be like, hey, sorry, don't hate us for it. That's all it is. It's
well, the other thing, the boomer generation was guaranteed to ride a wave of economic.
It was the biggest post-war boom in the history of the planet
because of the demographics, right? You can't
and a hypertrophic economy.
That's right. That's right.
What it is.
But talking about the origin of the fuckery, shall we call it, at least from the deep state angle. I think it's pretty clear how that emergently happened, Tom. I think what happened emergently was they committed so many crimes in the process of running this coup that now their main intent is to cover up all their crimes.
Yeah, right. No, I agree. Right. And then that is also feeds into the demoralization campaign, because then all you have to do is redirect that to the people who they're blocking from trying to fix it.
Yeah, and they do that with the Alinsky business, the Darvo.
Right.
Reversal
radicals.
Right.
Switcheroo.
This is all just narcissistic redirection. Like, it's not me, it's him.
But I think they're losing now, and I think that they're losing and they're panicking.
I'm hoping they're losing.
Well, because natural laws of just thermodynamics, nature, like you're saying, emergent, like medicine itself. That was a good point, Jim. It's like it will, and it already is. And you have a lot of 10 years ago, and it's not quite as much anymore. A lot of them are just leaving and going to Dubai. They're like, fuck this shit, I'm going over there. It will. Security. I talked to all the special forces guys. All the cities where they defund the cops, they're like, bro, that's where you get the biggest paychecks, because all these rich people are like, I have a gated community. They're hiring all these Navy SEALs and shit. It is emergent. It'll just take time, and it's just so. And then like and then it's like on a meta scale of all of these institutions being destroyed, it'll correct itself, and the shockwaves will just kill a decent amount of the world population.
But it's not just the boomers who are benefiting. So, for example, I think
I'm not even talking about boomers. I'm talking about
if you're a lifeguard off the coast of Los Angeles, you make something like $250,000 a year. I mean, there's some really absurd pay scales out there.
Right. So what I'll say is that Dave hopes it's improving. Jim is saying the narrative is going to catch up with it. I'm sitting there in the middle going, yeah, the only way we're going to go from hope to is if we actually say, I'm willing to sit here and fucking fight for it.
Yeah.
Like, and I have the millennial host. I've got the two, no offense, guys, the two baby boomer older guys on either side of the fence. And then there's the Gen X
offended. I'm so offended.
I know you are. And then there's the Gen X guy going in the middle going, give us the fucking power. We know what to do. And this is the problem right now, is that we're being cock-blocked from taking that power.
I think Trump's got a lot of Gen X guys who are very potent fighters, very good warriors. Stephen Miller and Todd Blanche and Hegseth and Besant, etc.
I agree, Jim, and I think there's a different vibe about this generation, and of course they're being cock-blocked by the old guard in some respect in the GOP, and then of course the emergent millennial push through the Democratic Socialists of America in the Democratic Party, and they're trying to, as always, squeeze. As always, Gen X is getting the short end of the stick, and we're sitting there going, "Yeah, that's cute, guys. We know how to deal with this problem."
See, that's where I do blame the boomers, or at least those who are helping the boomers, is that the boomers right now have overpriced houses and overpriced assets, and they're doing everything they can possibly do to keep them overpriced, where the system really ought to let those two prices equilibrate such that the younger generations can afford to buy them. And if for example, if I go into a nursing home, I'm going to sell a house that Gen X can't afford. At some point, that house has to reprice.
That's part of it, Dave. And I will say that you have two options. And this is again, it goes back to the conversations that you and I have had many times, which is how much repricing to the downside. Certain markets are very affordable and other markets are not. Okay. And I was just having this conversation. I think, Tommy, we did this a little bit earlier when we were on with Blaine and Colonel Watkins and Susan Kokinda. I said, you want to get a house in Cincinnati, you can find a perfectly fine house in Cincinnati for $100,500 or whatever, making 35, 40 grand. You can get a couple of each making 35, 40 grand together, and they can do income times 3 and they can find a house. Now, in Florida, where everybody's been moving to and housing prices are, no, it's not possible. There are no entry-level houses in that respect in those in that market. So there's certain markets, and those are just kind of fundamental migration problems as capital sloshes around trying to find the best deal in this market, because you've got other factors, taxes, this, that, all these things that are happening. The migration out of California and New York and these other overpriced markets are creating new overpriced markets. And so we're watching the money move around. I think the bigger...
Oh,
sorry.
You're good.
Yeah.
They finally killed. Yeah, they finally killed Tom.
Yeah. No, it was a phone call. A friend of mine tried calling me and I had to say no. But I'll turn the microphone back over in a second. I think this is the nut we have to crack, as to how to deal with maintaining as much of the valuation that we currently have as possible in order to minimize the societal unrest and the further demoralization of the younger generation, and yet build towards the future.
Yeah, but markets have minds of their own, Tom.
Of course they do.
That's correct. The people who think someone's controlling markets,
no, they're not.
You can restrain them for a while, but they are a force of nature. That's like sandbagging the Mississippi during flood season, right? It gives way.
I agree. I'm not. I mean, here we are this morning, like watching various aspects of the markets melt down.
Well, they're liking the fact that Warsh didn't hike rates.
Right. I'm actually liking the fact that Warsh only had 3 dissents. This is something interesting. This is actually something I really wanted to talk to you guys about today, knowing full well that we were going to start at the moment when the decision came down, because markets were. What I noticed was a tremendous amount of dollar illiquidity over the course of the last week or so in bond markets, SOFR strip, just the T-bill market. Like on Monday, the 1 month T-bill was trading at above the range. It's trading at 3.8%. I'm like, this is interesting. Is this a blackmail scheme that somebody's trying to get Warsh to raise? Yada, yada, yada. What's going on here? And this morning I woke up and it was 3.7 and equity markets were, in trouble. But the thing that was interesting was that yesterday, Jim Bianco, had a couple of really great posts about, the situation inside the Federal Reserve. Warsh wants to fundamentally change the culture within the Fed, but he's got these 11 other voting members of the FOMC that may not agree with him. And what happens if he loses control of the Fed while he's trying to reform the Fed from within?
Were they dissenting from the hawkish side or the dovish side?
We don't know.
Question: Can you discriminate?
It was from the hawkish side. They
wanted to raise rates.
Can you make a distinction between attitude and policy?
Well, Warsh has made it abundantly clear that he doesn't want to govern the Fed's interest rate policy based on the Phillips curve, based on the old trade-off of employment versus inflation, which then speaks directly to the Fed's dual mandate, which is stable prices and full employment. Those two things are incompatible if you believe that the Phillips curve is the dial by which you decide on growth and all of these things. So, and that's a fundamental shift away from both Keynes and Friedman, in a conceptual level. But you got a Fed that's oriented towards both Keynes and Friedman. And if he doesn't have a Federal Reserve Board or an FOMC that's down with the new sickness, for lack of a better term, then he could have had a revolt. He could have lost control of the Fed. That was what Jim was worried about yesterday. Jim Bianco was worried about yesterday, and it was a salient point. And so,
if they don't have a dial, if they don't have the Phillips curve, do they not have any dial at all? And then does that mean they stop pretending to have a dial?
Well, it's that what I've been trying to say for a long time now, going back to the last 4 or 5 years worth of my, interpretation of the changes that have been happening. So for the yada, all of that stuff, which is to say, the Fed is no longer going to be, if everything I've seen from Bessent and Trump and the stable coins and all of that stuff, they want to move away from the Fed being the sole creator of credit within the United States economy. We want to put that more under the auspice of the Treasury and more under the auspice of the executive branch. And therefore, the Fed becomes the guardian of the paywall between offshore and onshore dollars. And so the Fed is going to get repurposed in many ways. And that's a generational problem as well. And so now you've got to fix the culture within the Fed. And one of the things that I've been thinking about for the last couple of weeks is, especially since yesterday when Jim put those tweets out, I'm like, oh, Warsh has got the same uphill battle against the entrenched orthodoxy. And to speak to your question, Jim, your question actually embodies what this problem, which is, well, what are they going to do then? Because we've all been trained in this mindset, but the whole world has to shift 90 degrees in a different direction. And
it sounds like they're saying we're going to just stop trying to control the interest rates, period.
Well, they're going to, again, it's not even a matter of that per se. It's that model, the Phillips curve, and this is, again, we can go back to our medical discussion earlier, where is there an actual study that tells us what the efficacy of statins is? There isn't much out there that actually makes the argument for statins. There's a lot of research. Not much at all. Well, by the way, the Fed has hundreds of papers published by the Federal Reserve trying to prove the Phillips curve, and they can't do it. They haven't been able to do it, and yet they've been governing by it. So by throwing away the Phillips curve, what are we actually throwing away?
Mm-hmm.
And so, but this again gets back to, we're now looking at a generational problem of shifting people's perspective on what monetary policy should look like, what this institution is actually here to do.
We're stopping.
Of course, there's a terrible inertia behind that of the enormous amount of debt.
Well, it's also like we're ceasing the sacrifices to the sun god, and we're realizing the sun's still rising. So there's optimism. We're like, all right, maybe we didn't need to do that. Like, sorry, everybody.
I think the Fed has had this luxurious period where it could pretend to be controlling things. I think that the faith in the Fed is at risk the way the faith in medicine is at risk. I've been sitting there watching the four of us thinking, if you turn the volume off, how long would it take the viewers to figure out which of us is the Italian? I couldn't help but notice that I found myself ducking like I was playing a video game in 3D or something. So it turns out the the interest rates have ticked up a little today, but not dramatically.
What Tom was saying about the homes and all that shit is, and I don't know anything about this, but is it going to correct if is New York, or specifically like Manhattan, is that like a bubble, or is that a specific area that's not uniform to the rest of the country? Because there is no price, the price doesn't adjust. You just have foreign money from China and India, all these guys who poisoned a river, and then they want to get their money out and they put it in some shell company. There's no adjusting. There's just 10 million, 50 million, $100 million apartments.
Yeah, but that's for luxury housing. As far as
how long until that spreads, though?
As far as the normal housing is concerned, you've got 75 years of incremental attacks on property owners who own rental property, who can't maintain their property and can't get a decent. They can't make the business model for owning property in New York work. So
and that's
nobody's
because
building
Biden's
new.
lockdown on the interest, right?
What
he for 4 years he locked down, you couldn't kick someone out of the apartment, for example. There was a moratorium on come on, give me the word.
Well, hold on. I was going to say on rent control or evictions. But Dave, when you go, if I retire, I'm going to a nursing home and I'm going to sell something that the next generation can't buy. That's what I mean. Is does it eventually, given enough time, stop being Manhattan to where boomers go, well, I'll just sell it to this dude and fucking whoever? At what point does all of the property start becoming this foreign store is it going to correct itself?
No, because capital controls are going to take care of that in places where that money would come from.
Well, that's going to be part of it, but there's going to be hot money flows into the United States.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
but are they going to buy
falls.
luxury housing in Ithaca, New York, and Columbus, Ohio?
If they can't afford the $1 trillion penthouse, they might start moving as it's slow. I'm talking about over 50 years. How does this spread?
Okay, well, just to give you an idea, back in 2003 and 2004, when the euro was trading at 80 cents, every third German was buying a condo in South Florida. How do I know that? Because my mom sold her apartment at the top tick of the market in 2003 or 2004, that exact way, right? Or whatever it was. It was in that period of time right before and it was Florida real estate boom. And interest rates were low, the euro was cheap, and they were trying to get out from underneath it, and they were trying to figure out a way to protect their capital. It happens. These waves are. So the question then is, are we? And that's a function of the Eurodollar system. That's a function of the money-based economy as opposed to the production-based economy.
Well,
and that's the conversation we're just beginning to have, and we're all still steeped in the money-based economy. And there are also
other little things going on in the background, like you have this wave of boomers who are not leaving their luxury housing even when they don't want to be in it anymore. They're rattling around like BBs in a packing crate. But the fact of the matter is, there's going to be tremendous attrition for that wave of boomers. They are going to be leaving the housing either feet first or going into the nursing home, or one way or another. They're going to be leaving that housing. So that housing is going to be sitting there. Well, so it's either going to reprice itself or it's going to be sold.
Well, this is the problem. We're all talking
I
about
agree.
it. Like, yeah, I agree, and we were all talking about it. Like during this is still a hangover from the zero bound interest rates years, where
Exactly.
people can get. Look, these people don't want to live in those houses, but they can't afford. But it would be materially worse for them to sell the house and go buy a smaller house, because now they got to pull a 7% mortgage when they've got a 3% mortgage. Why don't you just stay in it?
So
Or they own
that
the
caused
house.
trouble. But what's also the bigger picture is the boomer generation. At some point, that demographic boost is gone. We're gone. We're now a drag on the system.
Yeah. Plus, you've got demographic failure
and shit.
You've got demographic failure in the younger generations, and you've still got rising school taxes and all of the grift that's going on with that.
Oh my God! Don't even get me started. Like we're going to get rid of property. So the Florida GOP did a lovely job of gutting the
Property tax?
the property tax initiative that's going to pass, and all it's really going to do is increase the for an immediate effect. All it's going to do is increase the homestead exemption from $50,000 to $150,000, but the schools are completely exempt. So the effectively private equity fund for the Democratic Party, known as school taxes, is going to continue. And and that's only going to rise to $250,000 worth of exempt property tax exemption in 5 years. And anybody moving into the state doesn't even get a chance to, they have to like hold the house for 5 years before they even get it. They made it so bad that it's like, we're going to vote for it because it's better than nothing, right? But it's not getting rid of property taxes. It should have. Ad valorem taxes are dumb. The state of Florida is running an unbelievable surplus, but politically, it was demagogue to the point of being almost irrelevant. And guess what? The Florida GOP are just as bunch of shitbags as the Georgia GOP, as the Democrats, as everybody else, because it's the old boys club. And so now, and then we're even worse than that. We're likely going to get this, Mongoloid Byron Donald as governor. And half of the Republicans in the state, everybody, rational people are looking at it going, I'm going to vote for the Democrat. I'd rather have a rational Democrat saddled with a supermajority Florida GOP in the legislature and get gridlock in Florida for 4 years than put that guy Donaldson. Because he's awful. Because it's just going to be the return to the Bush clan controlling Florida politics.
What has he demonstrated to be stupid about?
He's everything that you would not want after Ron DeSantis. He's in for all of the crap that we finally got rid of, like
DEI and
like he's in for all this stuff. He's just awful, but he's going to be the guy that wins, right? The primary still hasn't happened yet, but he's going to win. And and from a tactical perspective and for strategic perspective, Susie Wiles told Trump to back him. Therefore, we're done. And it's to me that's just yet another attack on Florida's sovereignty, when Florida, going back to the original portion of this conversation, which was one of the only states that didn't lock down, because Ron DeSantis didn't lock the state down.
And everything was fine. It was more than fine.
And more than fine. Florida became the bastion of freedom in the United States. And they had to, rig the fucking census to not give us 3 more friggin' electoral votes in this election cycle.
To go back to all this stuff being interconnected, and Dave kind of nailed it, saying the drag on the system. That comes back to like one of the original theories about COVID was it was getting rid of the older generation, because
of course,
like the idea was like, well, China wants to do it. I'm like, that's not, but that idea isn't like unique to China. There's any system that all of a sudden they're going, hey, their cash cow phase is over. Would you not want to get rid of it? It's fucking evil. I'm not supporting it.
Yeah, I know. It's like the Canadians have already killed more white people under MAID than the Nazis did under Action 4.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like,
which was the prototype for the Holocaust.
And Trudeau's family owns a lot of. They made a ton of money off the polyethylene glycol in the shots.
Yeah,
did you know that? Like a ton of money.
I didn't know that.
Like
whose family?
Trudeau's at the time of the vaccine rollout, they had a giant stake, if not like the controlling stake in whatever company made the polyethylene glycol, which was, I guess, the solution that the mRNA, the solvent.
Polyethylene glycol is used in such enormous volume. There's no way the vaccine.
Then I'm getting the term wrong. Then I'm getting the chemical wrong, because what they had was specifically for the vaccine. Okay. So then it's not PEG. But that you're not wrong. I'm wrong. But they had something that was specifically like, that's convenient. Right. Like, I mean, that's why it's got to have an organic correction. I just think it's going to be like
generational.
Yeah, I think
generational.
Yeah, and like, I don't mean it as like a giddy way.
Definitely generational. We're not talking about a couple of years of pain.
Yeah, no, it's gonna. So some group is going to unwillingly be the next greatest.
To make matters worse, the property that we're talking about, the homes we're talking about, are all these terribly badly built provisional structures made out of glue and
Chinese sheetrock,
vinyl,
Chinese
sheetrock,
dog
and
shit.
Home Depot faucets
OSB.
and all that crap, and it's all falling apart in just a few years.
You know, it's funny. I am having the hardest time finding a builder who will actually build me a house that I want to build, because I don't want to build my house out of 2x6s and sheetrock. I want to build my house out of either concrete or steel, and I'm having the hardest time finding somebody here who's
capable of it.
They don't know how. Yeah, they probably don't know.
They just don't do it because the system of home building has been so streamlined, because the profit margins are so thin for everybody that they can't, there's no expertise. I'll give you a perfect example. Terrazzo, which used to be the poor man's flooring in the 1950s, is now a luxury item that is an unbelievably expensive. It's for no other reason than because no one knows how to do it. It's not expensive.
What about those systems with the foam walls that you pour concrete into?
Oh, and integrated concrete forms. I'm not a big fan. I mean, they're okay. I just don't want to build integrated concrete forms. Mm-hmm. I'm just trying to build a basic steel building at this point, and that's hard enough.
Getting like somebody with I-beams and stuff.
Yeah, like a simple barn dominium. Like, how hard, but steel, not
corrugated crap.
Not stick framing around the big red iron process.
The way they do around here, they're doing that with these these apartment complexes where they're putting up 4-story buildings that are like partly I-beams and partly wood framing.
And then the rest of it is wood framing and OSB. And I'm like, I'm not interested in that. I'm just like, this has been the problem. And then I found some unique building options for doing concrete. And the only problem is shit's expensive. And now it then starts getting outside of my budget or this or all these things. So it's like it's just a mixture of things. So I'm like, let's just build something simple. How about we put up a 40x70 steel building and frame in a couple of friggin' apartments inside of it, and I'll park my cars in the other half of it. Mazel tov. That's a house. Like, really? That's a house? It's not a house. So
well, the other interesting phenomenon you see if you look around the countryside, one is, I don't know about close to the city, but in my neck of the woods, 3-car garages are pretty standard. And these are attached to houses that are not bigger than the 3-car garage. And so it's a boys' toys storage facility, best I can tell. But the temporary, the storage, the cold storage units, which you've got up everywhere, just absolutely everywhere. When we were kids, Jim, I'm guessing that your family's like mine, where we didn't need cold storage because we didn't have that much shit.
No, and I grew up in a 2-bedroom apartment in Manhattan, and we didn't have a whole lot of storage space or closets, or we didn't have basement to stick stuff. We didn't have an attic. We didn't have any of that shit.
So we just had less shit. If you bought cold storage, you bought too much shit.
Yeah, it's interesting now is there's a couple cold storage here in Portland that since I've been here over the last 4 years have turned into like restaurants and shit. So I don't know.
You mean cold storage or self-storage?
Self-storage.
I don't fucking know.
I mean the kind that
where those little sheds.
Yeah. No, I'm talking about the ones where it's like 30 or 40 in a block of.
Yeah. Those buildings are being converted to like restaurants here. I don't know if that's an indicator if everyone's losing their shit, but like, yeah. not storage anymore.
Yeah,
that's weird because there's so many.
Well, it was kind of a boom. It was kind of a boom industry, and they overbuilt it. I think simple as that.
That must be. The other thing in Ithaca, the number of units, rental units in Ithaca that's been built in the last decade. If you go through our college town, that used to be just sort of a lot of houses and a few low stores. It's now Canyon. You feel like you're in Wall Street or something. Mm-hmm. Downtown Canyon, 7-8-story buildings in Ithaca didn't used to exist.
And we went through the same thing in Gainesville.
There's tens of thousands of units, but Ithaca is this very stable community. This is 2 colleges, right? That's about it. And I don't know where the bodies are coming from. They at least 10,000 new units in town. They just built a whole bunch of new dorms in the North Campus to house the entire freshman class. So there's really so
same thing
much
in Saratoga
housing.
Springs. Same thing. And my interpretation of it is just a typical real estate boom of a certain typology of building that is now deeply overbuilt and is facing, is going to be facing a tremendous bust.
I think it's Melody who said that new housing is now selling cheaper than, we'll call it used housing.
Yeah,
and that never used to be the case. And I think it's because the home builders who have built these houses realize they got to get the fuck out. Mm-hmm. And they know what boom busts look like compared to standard homeowners. So they are trying to dump their inventory as fast as they can, which means they're now underpricing the used house market.
Yeah, the trouble with real estate investment is that you get projects permitted and financed in one period, and then you start, it takes like 36, 48 months to get all those things lined up, the permitting, the environmental reports, the financing. And by the time you're ready to go into the ground, economic conditions have changed and your business model is screwed.
I'm trying to sell a lot right now. And it was a part of a development. It's the last lot not to be built on. The town is claiming there's no evidence that it was subdivided. And I go, look at all the houses. There's like 30 houses all in a row, and this is the one lot. And now it's somehow stuck. And I'm just, at some point, I'm going to donate it to a charity and take a fucking write-off.
There you go. Yeah. Why not?
And also, if it turns out they won't give me the subdivision, here's what I've been thinking about. They could say, oh, that's not a dividable lot. That thing just went from in Ithaca 70,000. It's a third of an acre lot. Went from 70,000 to what's it worth now if you can't build? 2,000? 1,000?
Whatever a pickleball court is worth.
Right. So a couple things. One is I'm going to find out if I can park a car on the lot. And if I can, I'm going to bring a bunch of fucking used cars and dump them on the fucking lot.
And then put those little pennants all around the property.
And just fuck up that lot like there's no tomorrow. And second of all, can I sue the town for back taxes because they charged me building lot taxes?
Why not?
Well, I don't know.
Yeah.
You should.
Question.
But
when they doable.
When they condemn your lot like this, I when I used to do practical politics in Alachua County back in 20 years ago, and they were arguing for their land use bills where they were trying to force clustering on agricultural, what was formerly agriculturally zoned, and then or an ag property. So if you had a 20-acre lot in rural Alachua County and you wanted to subdivide it into 4 5-acre lots, which is the minimum size for an ag lot, I don't know what the rules are now. They're probably even worse, but they made it such that you had to cluster the houses in the center of 4 acres. Mm-hmm. And then so that everybody else, so that you couldn't build, one corner. No. You have to cluster. Like I moved out to the country so that I didn't have to have fucking neighbors and basically condemn the rest of the land in effect. And that's what they're doing. And they knew exactly what they were doing, these people. And we looked at them and we said, this is wrong. This is horrible. And they're like, yeah, we know. We're doing it on purpose. Because literally they were the worst people imaginable. Why? Because they wanted to preserve green spaces so that when they drove out of the city of Gainesville and went out on their Sunday afternoon drive, they could congratulate themselves on having condemned everybody else's property. My wife does that.
My wife, there'll be like 4 building lots in a place that otherwise has just houses. And she'll say, oh, they can't build there. They need green space. I go, so what they should do is build out in the country where there are no houses? Mm-hmm. You want them to build someplace where they're and turn it into a housing development?
And then you're going to complain that there's urban sprawl.
Right.
Mm-hmm. I mean, there are some arguments for clustering that are worth entertaining, but I'm not going to get into them right now.
Yeah, again, maybe there is, but I'm saying is, in general, by doing that, what they did was they effectively condemned millions of dollars worth of property. And that's the problem. And then they were charging these people.
But that has to be seen within the paradigm of living in a society that is absolutely, completely attuned to car dependency. And that might not be the case as a practical matter that many years into the future.
Or this fall.
Just saying. Huh?
Well, no, but this is the thing. We're talking about, the simple fact is the reason that the America is a car dependent world or country is that it's fucking big.
Yeah,
it's big. And that's just the way it is. And
in terms of everyday movement and everyday environment, there's a lot to be said for creating new neighborhoods rather than creating just standing out parcels of suburban houses. It's really kind of fundamentally crazy. Now, people want to live. The other thing is people want to live in the country, but what you're articulating is a very paradoxical condition, which is people want to lead urban lives in a country setting, and for the first million years of the human race, that was not possible. If you were living in a rural place, you had to live a rural life. But now everybody wants to lead that urban life, but with the amenity of having nature all around them. That's really a luxury of the hypertrophic energy economy we've been in for the last 100 years. So I just wouldn't expect it to endure. That's all.
Well, what I also say, Jim, is that some of it is just downstream of single-use zoning.
There's that, but that's only a way of formalizing the constraints and incentives that exist.
What I'm saying is, single-use zoning was promoted by and promulgated and enforced by the very people today who are complaining about urban sprawl. And they really
arose from a whole dynamic, which was, you get the cities around the turn of the century that have become reached a scale that has never been seen before in human history, and it's accompanied by all these obnoxious activities, industrial activities, and they decide around. And in the United States, zoning really only comes around in the 1920s. It's that recent. And like a lot of things, these things have unanticipated consequences. One of the terrible consequences was we decided that shopping was an obnoxious activity that people shouldn't be allowed to live around. And that destroyed the whole dynamic of an urban place where you can live, shop, work, and have a profession at the same time. So now, all the shopping has to be in its own module. The offices have to be in the separate module, et cetera, residential. Then we zone them by income. We have the $60,000 people and the $300,000 people and the $1 million people all living in separate pods. Yep. And, it has it's just reached a point of absurdity.
I agreed, and I remember having these conversations with people in, again, my experience is in Gainesville, Florida, where I lived right next to the city that was deemed by people on the left at that time. So we're not talking about the mid to late 90s, early 2000s. That period of time is when I was having these conversations with people, and Ocala, Florida, was considered the worst urban sprawl in the country. Okay, so you had Democrats at the time had the worst urban sprawl because what was happening? Ocala was growing like a weed away from the city center. And so I remember talking to people of, your age, who were politically active in the late 60s, who created all the single-use zoning to to separate everybody out and do exactly what you just described. And they're all like, yeah, that was a mistake. And now and then they started turning back towards, we need mixed use housing. I'm like, yeah, we need mixed use zoning. Like we need apartments over shops and all that stuff. So for example, Dave, in the student ghetto around the University of Florida, when I went there, it was literally just a bunch of old, there was a couple of apartments and old houses and really crappy. We had one of the worst student ghettos for 70,000 or 40,000 at the time. It was even 40,000, but even when it became a 70,000 student university, major university, we still had this horrible student ghetto right across the street from the University of Florida, where it was literally like Burrito Brothers and the Burger King and the copy center, right. and
the houses with the rotten old sofas on the porch.
Yeah, right, and, exactly, where you sit and get shit faced.
Right, but we still had to get all these kids to campus. So then, because the city was verboten to build more than 3 stories tall in the entire city, that meant that we had to push out towards I-75. West into the rural part of the county, all of these apartment complexes built up. And then we had this massive traffic problem as all the kids and all the university staff and everybody had to go to the center of town. So what they've done since then, is now we have the student ghetto looks like West Palm. There's a Citibank with a 7-story apartment complex. There's a Publix where the McDonald's used to be. It's all right there now. And okay, it's better.
And that's not necessarily bad at all.
No, I wasn't saying it was bad. That's not what I was saying. I'm saying, but it was the moratorium for years of the anti-growth policies of the local government that precluded that from getting built for decades.
I'll tell you what else precludes things from getting built that nobody pays any attention to at all, with massive unanticipated consequences, was the Americans with Disabilities Act, which provided an incentive for only to build 1-story buildings because nobody wanted to put an elevator in, and all these other things. And it secretly operated behind even the bad zoning codes to militate against 2-story or 3-story buildings in places where they would have really been appropriate.
Agreed.
So we
need to do some
not
cleansing.
Only did you get no apartments over the stores, but you got no ability for landlords to collect rents on the footprint of a building that could have produced a lot more value.
Exactly. And now, and especially in a town like Gainesville, which is the local medical center for like all of North Florida, right? I mean, the whole complex, it's a huge industry, huge part of the local economy. Go look at all the medical parks, like the commercial parks that all have and they're all exactly what you talked about. They're mandated by the county when they go to put a new one in, that there be ponds and driveway, and everybody has their own parking lots, 1-story buildings, all this stuff, and they're a maze. And then they all dump out onto like 5 access roads, and the traffic is off the charts. And the county's city commission is like, well, we want to put everybody in buses. So they then purposefully mistime the lights to make the traffic even worse in order to try and get people to not use their cars.
Well, the short end of the story is that they're going to keep on doing that shit until they can't do it anymore.
So we need eugenics.
No, and it's not. Eugenics isn't the answer, but
no, he's being facetious.
It'll become self-evident that
get rid of the wheelchair ramps.
It'll become self-evident that the business model for doing that has failed, and then we'll do things differently.
In terms of,
and there'll be a lot of ruins around. All this shit has 3 basic destinies. It's either ruins, salvage, or slums.
Yeah. In terms of just bubbles and shit, talking about AI, Tom, the other day, General Holt said on my show that there's, I guess, rumor or a confirmed rumor of pushing through a law of where they're and I just looked it up. It is true, where military bases are now leasing out space on their land to build data centers, so that they are technically part of military installations and now can't be restricted by normal legislation. So does that mean that means now it seems like if they're making them military assets, does that remove the idea that this bubble could pop? I'm not saying it should or could or wouldn't. I'm saying they're kind of making it like this is a military asset now for drone swarms and intelligence capabilities. does that bode well or not? That they're kind of putting a military wall, literally and figuratively, around the AI bubble.
Definitely shores it up.
Yeah, I would say at least at the margins is what I would say there. And then,
but no, they're huge, like multi-billion-dollar data, and they're leasing out like 50 years at a time. I guess Fort Bliss is doing it to KBR. These are not like little things.
No, I'm not downgrading. And now the big or downplaying. Now the bigger question is, are they also building the power plant that goes along with it?
Well, that's the other thing is they're saying yes.
Well, okay. Well,
which makes it pretty clear that they're calling a hyperscaling, which is pretty clear that this is all.
But to say you're going to build it and to build it are two different things.
Sure.
Yeah.
Very
try
things.
permitting even a small modular nuclear plant.
I think if you put it behind a military thing and say this is for national security and it's for the global race, I mean they're putting it up there with like the Manhattan Project or the race for the intercontinental ballistic missile. Right. They're now putting it behind, whether or not it should or would or will. That doesn't matter. Right. Once you slap it behind, it's like a military protection thing. Now it's like authorized shoot to kill. Like you're not getting rid of these.
Right.
It's just
a good question. It's a good question.
It's a bubble that we're in, but maybe it has nothing to do with AI. Maybe they're literally protecting the economic bubble because if it doesn't work, everything's fucked.
I think it's already blowing up right now.
Which is so they're putting a military wall around it and going, no, we all got to keep playing the bubble.
I think the AI bubble. I think the AI mania has peaked. I think you can already see the downslope.
Really?
Yeah.
You can see it.
What's that?
Financially or functionally for the AI?
No, AI is a technology. It's here to stay.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Yes. No, AI is an investment. I think it's already peaked.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
And
I wouldn't argue with that.
You look at credit default swaps. These companies that need huge amounts of capital can't get it now. The KOSPI, which is all AI, the entire KOSPI index is just pure AI, basically, has been dropping 6, 7, 8% a day. It's really, and now it's still way up. I mean, it's up. Yes. It's way up in a way. Like, for example, here's one for you: Dell Computer. Dell Computer, last I looked, was a couple of days ago, so it's way out of date. But it was up 256% year to date.
Yes,
that's not normal.
No,
that's not normal. Right?
Well, so what I would say, I agree with you. Like I can tell you, like also like EEM, the emerging markets ETF. If you look at the major holdings of it, it's basically an AI stock.
Right.
You know, it's no longer a basket of emerging market stocks.
And SpaceX is an AI stock. And SpaceX can't stop going down either.
No. So what I would say is, there's this round of funding. It's becoming a negative gearing scenario for a certain aspect of the market. Yeah, we'll see what happens.
It's also sucking the capital out of everything else because, as I like to say, would you rather, as a banker, make 1,000 $10 million loans or one $10 billion loan? And the answer is one $10 billion loan.
Of course.
It's easy. You just pack it together and boom, give it to Anthropic.
Yeah, it's easy, but then the hazard profile changes a lot.
That's right, and that's what's happening is that the AI companies are sucking vast amounts of credit out of the system, and I think one of the things the Fed might be trying to do is thread the needle to keep that game going long enough to somehow have it not become a disaster. Now, again, SpaceX says it staged its lockout period, which at first I thought was criminal. And then I said, no, because you don't want $1.5 trillion worth of shares becoming available for sale in a single day.
Of course not.
And so they had to stage it.
No different than what they did.
The staging means they're selling it as fast as they can. The staging means they're selling it as fast as they can.
It happened with Facebook as well, by the way. There's the same thing happened with
Facebook? They staged
Facebook? Yeah. The lockout period. I didn't know that. The lockout. I remember
buying it.
I started my financial career during the Facebook IPO. So it's when I was working with a guy over in Vietnam where we were watching it happen. And I remember being, there was a staged, same thing over the course of a year and a half. Certain tranches became available for sale over the course of a year and a half, something like that. Yes. That's very normal.
So is it that there is an actual?
I have to pull a Tommy.
What? I just
the lizard.
Yeah, you can just do it on camera, dude. Some people like that. I don't know. Maybe
piss into a mug.
Yeah,
piss into a mug.
Dave, you always bring that up. It's
I know.
It's an unforced error every time.
I know.
It's not even forced. It's
At least you're not choking your chicken.
It's an unforced error in like the wrong sport. You just you throw the banana peel down and jump on it every time.
If there was a YouTube for that, it would be great.
You don't have to do this. So does that mean that there is some truth somewhere to recursive AI improvement if the military is going, this is a military asset? Or, and it's not hard to believe at all, this is just the corruption of the entire organism of the U.S. government, Wall Street. It's all just merging into one, and they're like, "Hey, call it a military asset, so we can't get rid of it."
I don't see them curing the hallucination problem.
But even if they do, government money's not free. It's either going to come out of our hides as inflation or come out of our hides as taxes.
I'm not defending any of this. I'm just talking about what do you think should happen. Yeah.
Well, do you really want government making decisions for you about how capital should be?
No, I'm not.
Put into the system. And
I'm saying if this is happening,
it's a figurative view. Yeah.
That
means we're going to get fucked.
Yeah. No, I know that. Oh yeah, no, we're getting fucked. No, we're getting raw dog. No, that's all a given. That's as a premise. We're all getting our asses pounded. But if you look at it just from like Tom, welcome back. If you just look at it as like this is a thing where like the military bases are now leasing it out in turn for the computing, like you can build it here and it will be protected here and it'll be a part of the military asset, which I would imagine means that it's also going to be something like one of the prime military contractors where it doesn't matter if their shit doesn't work anymore. They're an untouchable sacred cow and it's sold internationally. Is that what they're doing? Is it kind of just getting bundled up into the military machine and you can't touch it? It's
there's no question that the military, whenever a new technology comes along, the military has to go balls out for it.
Correct.
Because somebody else might go balls out for it and have a better one. So we got to do it, and that's why that's happening. It's not. It isn't.
No, I know that. I know that, and so you can't wait around and go, do you think it works or not? It's like, well, by the time you figure it out, you better hope you won.
Now, personally, I think it's going to demonstrate that AI will demonstrate that it's such a menace that we really can't depend on it, or maybe even have it around at all.
I think
that's going to happen in fairly short order. And also, not only is it inherently a menace, but the villains who are going to do bad things with it are a menace.
Oh, it's all absurdly comically evil and retarded. I'm like, as a premise, like let's just accept that it's just the darkest possible timeline and it's all fucked. That being said, I'm just trying to look at like, what do you think's going to happen? I'm not
the most hated technical revolution I've ever seen. I imagine when cars showed up, people were not screaming about how we have to get rid of cars. But there's a lot of layers to the AI story. I think at the microeconomic level, it could be very important. Although the other day I had an experience where I use AI to order from the local Thai takeout. You call and you get this answering machine and it says, what would you like? And you tell it and then it repeats it and say, is that correct? And you say yes, and then it says, what else would you like to order? And then at one point I thought I had to cancel the order and I realized I couldn't. And so I think the AI-driven system, it is going to be like when we went from being able to talk to a person who speaks English to a person who doesn't speak English. And you go, when can I get a person who speaks fucking English? And then that corrected. So when you call a help center, you tend to get someone who actually can speak English now. But I've noticed that. It's not always, but I've noticed it. But in any event, I think we're going to reach a point where you can't get anything but an AI. And it's going to suck. So I think AI, and you're going to say, well, it's not going to work as well as then human operated. And you go, but no one's going to care because it's going to save money.
Yeah. Well, I've said this before. I think that it's going to be such a demonstrable menace that citizens will go around shooting out the electronic relays and transformers, and they'll sacrifice the most important part of modern civilized life, which is electricity, in order to get away from AI.
Not if they're behind military bases.
You got to save some ammo for the flock cameras.
Yeah. Well, they're already on that.
Are they foreseeing this? Is the Pentagon looking at, they always have plans that go. I mean, they were talking about how to invade Japan from the islands back in like 1905, 40 years before we do it. They always have these war plans. Are they looking at it and going, yeah, by 2037, there's a 40% chance the average 20-year-old is going to be trying to take out cameras. So let's slap them behind a bunch of literal military bases and say, well, now this is a national security threat.
Or is this a way of segmenting the type and kind of AI that's going to be used for military purposes, and it's hived off in that corner of the
that too,
the credit cycle? Like, we're and again, this gets down to things that Susan, for example, talks about. Like you have the Office of Strategic Capital, which is a means by which to bypass the Federal Reserve's credit creation process to directly invest tax money into, these projects. And, we have a dysfunctional, what we're all describing is a dysfunctional system. And we have a dysfunctional credit market. We have a dysfunctional credit distribution system where we used to have a monopoly, or we still have a monopoly on the credit creation system, but that monopoly is breaking down. And we're in the transition period, and we're not sure. And the AI technology of today, these large language models and whatnot, are not generative AI. But if they start deploying them as if they're generative AI, this is the interesting part. This is when everybody is going to do what Jim is talking about. Burn it all the fuck down. It's that meme of we used to worship the sun god. And then we harnessed the power. And we harnessed the power of the sun. We made electricity, and we built out an industry, and then we built AI, and then AI decided to take us all over. So we killed to
the sun burps.
So then the sun burps, and we go back to worshiping this, and wipes out the AI, and we go back to worshiping the sun god.
So should we
is this just the sun burps and wipes out the grid, and we just all the chips and everything else?
So how do I get ahead of it?
Blinks. The universe winks at you.
Yeah. How do I get ahead of this? Just start praising the sun now. Start sacrificing people.
I already
build a little stone altar.
Yeah,
you have to find a cult of satanic cannibals. Is what you have to do.
Well, it's funny. I for the newsletter a few months ago, I wrote a thing about living up here on up on the plateau, and in our temporary scenario, we don't have a well. I'm catching rainwater, and I'm living off of rainwater and treating the water myself, and yada yada yada. And I'm like, when everybody else is like screaming about too much heat and the sun, or hates it when the rain happens, I look up and I'm not the old man screaming at clouds. I'm the guy going, cool, it's going to rain today. That means I have water tomorrow. So you know what I mean? Like when I look up at the clouds, I smile, and then go back to work. I presume
you have water storage capabilities.
Yeah, of course I have. Yeah, we have 1,000-gallon tanks.
If I ever built a house, I would certainly put in a 1,000-gallon underground propane tank. The idea of having that is really appealing. It's a little late for me now, but by the way, Jim,
I'm sorry I got solar electric.
That's another
instead of getting a Rolls Royce of generators and a buried propane.
Jim,
tank.
Are you getting shitty air quality from the fires? By the way,
we were about 10 days ago.
My eyes were stinging
today,
and I was wondering if the vertigo I got wasn't somehow tied to some sort of toxicity
anoxia.
Of the
interesting
and.
We got something up
chronic
here.
Anoxia.
Anoxia. Yeah.
We got something up here. Like, I'll send you guys some pictures. Like a couple of days ago, Tom, you've been up in this apartment. It was the most beautiful sunrise I've ever seen. Like just the clouds.
Bright red.
No, and then I realized, looking at it, I was like, "Oh, this isn't normal." I looked up, it was all forest fires. If I was taking pictures, I was like, "Oh, it's beautiful."
So here's what happened when I took a picture. We had the reddest sun you've ever seen. I mean, it looked like some sci-fi movie, bright red, like Tommy's shirt red.
Yeah.
And I took a photo, and my iPhone turned it to a white sun.
Interesting.
It looked like
I go, where'd the sun
wafer.
go? I couldn't even see it. And I go, Candace, where's the sun in this fucking picture I just took? We couldn't find it. And they go, oh, there it is right there. And it's this little white thing. The iPhone filtered out the entire red sun.
It's what's real, and what's also interesting, of course, is that the sun has changed color, right? Dramatically, it's now much whiter and much hotter than it's been in our lifetimes. And the solar, the magnetic excursion, and the sun itself is going through.
Sun weatherman coming.
Oh yeah, no, it's like all that stuff, man. I've been following.
They can try their best with DEI, but whiteness finds a way.
There's the name of the podcast, Tommy.
Even the sun's white now. The sun's white now.
I'm keeping my monetization on YouTube. I'm not saying whiteness fine. Yeah, I was just telling Tom that people are like, you've changed with your titles. I'm like, I'm getting paid now. Shut the fuck up.
I, by the way, did a podcast the other day with Marty Bent and Rudy, and the tech fucked up, and we couldn't hear Rudy at all. So Marty and I are talking, and Rudy's talking, and it all got superimposed. And people are going, "This is the most," and I'm going, "What the fuck is going on here?" And people were bitching my dogs for snoring, and I go, "It's not the dogs. Rudy was on the fucking roof of his house talking."
Well, no, when you were on my show, your dogs were snoring.
No, they do snore, but it's not overwhelming.
Yeah, no.
But this thing went total digital chaos.
That was hilarious. Dave was on last week, and like his dogs were snoring. And finally, I was like, "Hey, I think your dogs are snoring." And you like woke him up. But people were commenting the email, and they're like, "I thought you were just being so sweet to Dave. I thought Dave was just farting nonstop, and you just were like not pointing out a geriatric moment." And I was like, "No, his dogs are snoring."
And then you took the NyQuil or the DayQuil.
I accidentally took.
I'm doing a podcast, and Tommy's passing out.
Dude, I had such a bad headache that I took NyQuil by accident, and it wasn't in the
DayQuil.
fucking.
I think it's DayQuil, ironically.
Well, no, I thought I took NyQuil instead of DayQuil. Because DayQuil has phenylephrine, NyQuil has phenylephrine and doxylamine succinate, and so I took that. Like it was out of my system by the time I was talking to Tom and Matt Dines, but I guess I took it like 30 or 40 minutes before I was talking to Dave, and like I don't remember, but people are texting me. They're like, "Dude, you're kind of like." Nodding off, like I know you're sober, but are you? I'm like talking to Dave. Dave's like, "What do you think about SpaceX?" I'm like, "I think it's gonna go get it." People were concerned. They were like,
I was expecting a fentanyl jackknife.
Legitimately, like, dude, Tommy died on talking to Dave. I just nodded off.
Yeah, that was really funny.
Yeah, I gave you the gas station experience, but like
I just thought you'd done too many podcasts.
Well, I was to this thing. I was tired, but I guess it's so. Yeah. People are watching that show like, what the fuck is this? Dave's shitting himself on microphone, and Tommy's nodding off. Like, what the hell's happening?
And what's really funny is,
trying to keep him awake. I kept saying, "You look pretty spent, Tommy."
I was like, "No."
And what was really funny in the next show, of course, Tommy recovered from the DayQuil, but then he had to but then Matt Dines, myself, and Vince Lanchi were getting like really geeky about bond markets and everything else. And every time we start doing that shit, and Tommy's like looking off into space.
No, I remember. So I started taking caffeine pills during that.
Right.
And so then it was the opposite. Then I was just like staring at you. My pupils were fucking the size of quarters. It's just like
it was hilarious.
That was a lesson. Don't do 6 shows in a fucking day. I don't know why I thought
that's insanity. That's absolutely crazy.
Yeah, it was.
I got a couple other topics I'd love to hit here. Sure. One is I want to just tell you one. I follow the Charlie Kirk story, as you know. I think it's got deep geopolitical meaning, but no one else does. I think Candace Owens is getting it right. I think Baron Coleman's getting it right. I don't think you could possibly convict Tyler Robinson in a legitimate court of law. What I saw this morning, which just was entertaining as shit, someone pointed out, and I go, "Oh my God, you're right." Remember when Erica Kirk was doing this molestation of Charlie in the coffin? And there's this debate about how did they pull off the autopsy so quick, and what the fuck is going on? There's something very strange about the autopsy timing. And he's in the coffin, and she's sitting there doing her fake blubbery thing, and she's got her hand on his hand. And someone pointed out, and I went back and double checked. Her hands are bigger than his hands.
I've seen that
in
like
the video.
Absurdly so. Not like
and it's like he's 6'5", and
it's
her
a weird
hands
video.
are bigger than his hands in the coffin.
No, it's a weird video.
Is she a space alien?
I don't think it was a real him in the coffin. I think
in defense of Dave, like this isn't like I've seen it. Somebody sent it to me. I'm like, dude, you're a fucking skits. I looked at it. It's absurd. It's like he has like little like it's weird. It's like Shaq's hand on mine.
It's like they're reverse. It's like
it's very odd.
It's and I hadn't noticed it. And then the other thing
with hands that small, why would she marry him?
Yeah, exactly.
Sorry.
Dig him up, pull his pants down. Let's see if it's there.
Well, big hands, big feet, right?
The other thing I noticed last week, and I wrote a ton about it, but I finally saw it, was when Trump got shot in Butler. If you watch the video, and I saw this where the Secret Service looked like they were teeing him up for good camera footage for the guys in front of them. But I watched the Secret Service agents, and for like 3 or 4 seconds, they're making no effort to get him down or move him off stage. They're literally sitting there. It's like they're looking around and they're staging the guy. And I go, oh my God, he is absolutely staged in that scene.
I think
there are at least 2 or 3 alternate explanations for that. One, the Secret Service was in on it and they were hoping for a follow-up shot.
Well, that I have no trouble with. Yeah.
Or like doctors, they purposely put in incapable people in it.
That again. 2, it's not like the Secret Service detail there was competent. That's 2. And 3rd, Trump was screaming at them, no, I'm in charge.
Their job is not to listen to him. Period.
Doesn't matter. Right.
No, but it does matter. Real Secret Service agents would not listen to him. Period.
Which maybe they were.
Again, he got shot that day. And the security failures all around Butler are so bad that just chalk it up for what it is.
I think, Dave, I think that actually goes. Hold on, I was going to say, Dave, I think that actually goes against your point, though, because you're right. No, because they grabbed Cheney. He notoriously said, "I don't want to go to and they grabbed him by the belt loop and like ran him down. But that would point to like they weren't. Oh, it might be staged. I'm with you, or it might be then the fact that they're not acting like real Secret Service will tell me that they purposely put in the shittiest dumb fucking retards who really go for real guys, real like Delta Force guys,
not Secret Service agents. They had to be not
or the most incompetent retards. If you had
that could be.
If you had real Delta Force guys in there, they would have dogpiled them.
They were not doing their job at all. And the argument that Trump was telling him to let him do it. There's no chance that's in their job description. When he's shot or shot at, he's no longer their boss.
Correct.
I don't know. How about the idea? How about the idea that in the commotion of 3 seconds or whatever it is, that there's just so much confusion on the scene that people couldn't get their shit together.
Combined
with some of the other things like the incompetent,
since you put that out, Dave, I have watched the clip.
Clip, and it looks like they're looking around. It looks like they're staging them for the cameras. It really once I saw they weren't moving them, they flat out. And then one guy all of a sudden looks like he says okay, and then they move them. It just didn't look right at all.
They may not have had anywhere to move him in that moment because they weren't. This is strategic, operational, tactical, all that stuff. In that moment, they were moving from tactical to operational, and the car might not have been ready yet. But
you take him down. You dogpile him. Tommy, They didn't.
No, but my point is
they dogpiled them.
So I'm in a unique position. Like I know Dale, who did private Secret Service for HW. There is no in the confusion of the moment. There is no the car isn't. There is none of that is left to chance. It is all planned out to millisecond reactions. If you get lost in the confusion, you're not on the fucking team. Which leads to there's 2 explanations. It was staged, or they were in on it.
Or they were inexperienced and they didn't do the automatic. They didn't react automatically.
You don't make it up to the presidential candidate. That's who I would hire for security.
Here's what the claim was at the time. The claim was that Jill Biden was speaking 48 minutes drive away, and that she got the good ones. That's in Pittsburgh, claim.
And they sent the A team over to her.
That's
Pittsburgh.
The claim. That is the claim. I'm telling you, when I watch it, though, I wrote about it. I did not buy the staged argument until about a week ago, and all of a sudden I watched it, and it just hit me like a truck.
Okay.
I looked at it and I said, "Holy shit."
Go back to the congressional hearings about that. and the people that were actually there at the time, and they looked like especially the woman who testified. She looked like the dumbest motherfucker on the planet. So at this point, I'm like, no, I'm going with incompetence, not malice. And remember also that why was that thing even? Why was the bullet captured in high definition?
Exactly. Why did the bullet get? No, why did the bullet get? Again, I know these guys. The tiers. It's called tiered security. You can't fucking see the president, and if you can, you're on your Secret Service. The whole fact that a bullet got off, the fact that camera guy was there that took the photo, that all tells me.
That's what I focused on. That's what I focused on.
We're focusing on the same things. You're looking at the answer of stage. I'm looking at the answer of
the guys even proximate to him acted irrationally, and I had not bought that theme. I then about a week and a half ago all of a sudden said, "Holy shit!" It popped up on my screen, and I go, "They're not even trying to protect him. They weren't even trying."
No. Which that tells me that.
And the argument that he was barking orders at them is bullshit. If they were real Secret Service, he is not in charge.
And
they're real Secret Service.
And that's why he doesn't use Secret Service for most of what he does.
He uses private security.
He has private security. And he's had it for a long time.
Yeah,
there ain't no way you can miss by a quarter inch.
Yeah.
Well, there is the claim which I dismissed, but the other thing he has is blood streaks that go across his face, and if he gets pinged going this way, the blood streaks going across his face are a little odd.
Your ears are also hypervascular.
I know.
Your ears and your tongue are like.
And but still, you whip your head around and shit happens.
You could stage it with the some sort of blood squirter thing.
The hilarious thing about this though is like both of the sides of it was staged or they were in on it trying to kill Trump. We're all providing the same evidence. No, that's kind of the funny thing. Well,
I think Collins' analysis of the bullets was good enough to make it look like it was a much more complicated story. But I thought I understood it, and then last week I got rattled by.
I know it was because I can tell the story now, but that's why I was contacted by the fucking CIA last summer about the episodes I was doing with Collum.
Right.
Because I was having on Delta Force guys looking at it, they're going, yeah.
I did. Yeah, I know. Collum,
yeah.
I was about to
somehow I get tied into this shit. And I didn't make any fucking money on those episodes, so I personally.
This is where you're supposed to say I'm not suicidal.
Yeah,
where are we on merging the Israeli and U.S. military, and what does merging mean? Can someone explain merging? Because it might be too hyperbolic.
It is very hyperbolic.
I know nothing.
But it still sounds. Every shred of that still sounds bad, even though I also concede hyperbolic.
Have you actually read Section 219 of the NDAA?
I don't think I'd be able to understand it. So,
it's actually not that. It's actually
what is it? Give me a thumbnail sketch. Give me a thumbnail sketch.
The thumbnail sketch is very simple. The current deal that we have with Israel, where we pay them for them to do skunk works for us by testing our shit against the Russians and the Chinese, we're just removing the payment. It's exactly the same scenario that we currently have.
It's not putting the payment behind a paywall?
No, it doesn't matter. No. We're just
it doesn't matter.
Well, no. The thing is that and the Israelis have said this. They're like, we don't want the money anymore.
Yeah, but Netanyahu has been known to fib.
Well, yeah, a little bit. But again, this is one of those things where this is worse than hyperbolic. I mean, and again, I'm no fan of the Israelis, and I don't actually want any of this going on. I don't even want Section 219 to go forward, right? I don't want that. I don't even want that information sharing. Like, I don't want it.
Well, what are we merging?
But
what is being merged?
We're not merging anything.
Well, what is the deal?
It's already been merged.
All they're doing.
But no, that was only in the Congress, so it's not yet through the Senate.
In fact, all they're doing is now taking that exact same system that we currently have in place and putting it under congressional oversight.
That means it's therefore no longer in view.
No. It's more in view because now the Congress, as opposed to being behind it,
you hide it in Congress.
Well, no, if you want to hide it, you hide it behind the DOD paywall, where It's the DOD.
I figure it's already there.
No, there'll be partisan argument over it now.
Right now they can make it now they can make hay over it. I'm
Boy,
sorry.
it's hard. Yeah,
I'm at this point, and everything is let us point the problems with the United States at the Israelis. That's all this is. It's just the same thing.
Here's the problem. No one, your counter is more than I've heard from anybody else. And you just gave me only 30 seconds, and it's more than I've heard. So where is the counterattack? And I don't want to hear it from some guy like, some guy from Israel. And by the way, I don't want to hear it from Netanyahu. Netanyahu has no credibility with me.
Well, it's become a third rail in American politics. People don't want to touch it.
But why isn't someone stepping forward and just saying, look, this is in detail, this is what this means?
Because the third rail is a third rail. And
I guess you're
American
right.
politics are irrational.
And at this point, we have a GOP and a Senate that's in full opposition to Trump. We've got a DNC that's in full opposition to Trump. You are literally living in a fifth generation warfare moment that's no different than what we started talking about, which was COVID. Which was the
counterattack. The counter argument is we also live in a world where everyone has an APAC handler. That's a big deal.
Yeah, it is.
You can't shake that off.
No, you can't. Well,
not at all.
No, you can't shake it off. But now we have to argue now, and this is the problem. Like, at what point do you credibly say that the United States and all of its institutional power and everything else takes all of its orders from one of your Boston Terriers?
I'm not sure what you mean by that.
It's a yip dog. A country the size and scope of New Jersey with it is not running the United States, but that's what they
no. Now you're underplaying the lobby power. You're underplaying the lobby power. The lobby's powerful.
I know the lobby's powerful. I'm not arguing that point. I'm saying that at some point, we are literally living through a time when everybody wants to take away the United States' agency in having foreign policy, domestic policy, and everything else, and all other policy. I'm just like, I'm not buying that. I buy that Israel has their incentives. Not all of their incentives ally with the United States.
I agree with that.
They're going to lobby. They're going to lobby for their thing and their interest. No different than France does. No different than the British do. No, right. So at the end of the day, the question is, why is somebody so dead set on taking away the United States agency? Why is somebody so set on trying to create that idea in the zeitgeist? Because that is, and why is it, has it been, in every way, a staged thing since 10/7 at every turn? And another layer of anti-Israeli crap. Again, argue all you want. I'm not happy about any of this. I'm not trying to cover for the Israelis. I don't like any of the shit that they're doing. We were just talking about this morning vis-a-vis Lebanon, right? That Trump is literally trying to put Netanyahu on a leash to not do to Lebanon what he did to Gaza. Like literally saying, oh, by the way, and then there's multiple, Netanyahu comes out and does all these unforced errors, and Trump's like, will you stop farting in my,
wait a minute, unforced errors? Why do you call them unforced errors?
On Netanyahu's part.
Why do you call them unforced errors?
Because no one's twisting his arm to do things that are going to bring a program down on Israel.
He's asking what the errors. Dave's asking what the errors are.
Because the error is that the only friend Israel has left is the United States, and if you and Donald Trump, and if you think that embarrassing or trying to move Trump publicly on an issue that he doesn't want to be moved on publicly, you don't think that's an unforced error on Netanyahu's part? Because all that's doing is making it worse.
There are claims that Israel, I know, this is the problem we face. There are claims that one thing problems Israel faces is that if you look generationally, it doesn't get friendlier with time, right?
Right.
And as a consequence, that they're swinging for the fence now.
Sure, that's an argument. Yeah, that they're gonna argue as hard as they can. Absolutely, but Trump has a different plan, which is obvious, in remaking the Middle East, and the Likud party is literally fighting for its very life. So is Netanyahu.
Okay, then so what Dave's saying, you're both saying. Well, it's no, fuck them, but I mean, it's the right move. If you're in that spot, go. Go for it.
But I think but watch Netanyahu attempt to move Trump, and then Trump just look at him and push back on him, because the goal in the end is for everybody to walk away. Trump clearly wants to walk out of that freaking region. He clearly wants out of there.
But he's the only one who wants out, best I can tell.
Well, he's also the president.
I know, but he's having trouble walking out.
Of course
he is. Of course, right. Because you've got the Iranians because the IRGC doesn't want to lose their raison d'etre, which is we control the chaos in the Middle East.
Right.
So they continue to choose death when we keep offering them cake, right? The Ukrainians are doing the same goddamn thing. They keep choosing death when everybody's offered them cake. Right, cake or death, the old Eddie Izzard joke. This is happening over and over and over again.
Well, I would argue that Ukraine, just to not get too complicated here, but I would argue that Ukraine is being steered completely and utterly at NATO's behest.
Of course, yeah, that's what I'm.
As a consequence, Ukraine is not the problem. Ukraine is caught between a rock and a hard place.
Ukraine is a proxy for the European NATO wing, European wing of NATO. Well,
so NATO's not shooting itself. Ukraine's not shooting itself. Ukraine is in an unwinnable situation now.
And do you think that the Israelis aren't in a similar situation?
No, I think that might be. But the point being is it still appears to me as though.
And same thing with the Iranians.
I'm not so sure about Iran.
I'm not so sure that the Israelis are in an unwinnable situation.
They're not. I'm not either. I'm not either. But I think they're unwinnable without us.
Well, yeah, no, again, and that's why Trump is. If you watch what Trump is trying to do, and it's very clear what he's trying to do, which is to get everybody situated in such a way that they all stand on their own 2 feet and take care of themselves.
And he's trying to throw a cake party. He's trying to throw a cake party in the Middle East. Let everybody eat cake and let everybody prosper and thrive and trade with each other and just stop acting insane.
But he's the only one in the triumvirate trying to do that, best I can tell.
Well, in the triumvirate, what do you mean? Russia, China?
Iran, Israel, U.S.
No, I don't think he's the only one. And plus, he's backed up by Saudi Arabia and other players in the region.
Agreed. And I also think that I absolutely think that let me put it this way. The IRGC and Iran are two different organizations.
Right.
Okay. So the IRGC's raison d'etre is, and again, I don't think the IRGC are independent actors any more than I think Hezbollah is an independent actor. Right. So if you look at it that way, what Trump has been trying to do, and I know people are tired of the negotiate, not negotiate, escalate, bomb, escalate, this whole cycle that's been going on. This is as much he's negotiating with the Iranian civilian government, who is not powerful enough to overtake the IRGC at this point. And each round of escalation, each round of bombing thing, and all of that is to further degrade the IRGC. What I see over and over and over again is they cross a red line in their negotiations. They agree to whoever Trump is negotiating with. They agree to something, and then it either gets leaked or they put it out there. This is how we're going to negotiate. This is what we've agreed upon, which crosses a red line for the IRGC. By the way, that's a proxy for that same NATO EU group that's doing the same thing in Ukraine. By the way, every time you get close to a peace deal, somehow the Ukrainians shoot another friggin' missile over at the Russians, or some other thing happens, or the bridge gets blown up, or. You've seen this over and over and over again.
Mm-hmm. Meanwhile,
none of these people are.
Meanwhile, we're systematically and methodically degrading them economically,
Right.
and which means that we are trying to put the civilian government at an advantage in overcoming the IRGC.
Right. And Hezbollah and the Houthis and everybody else. And all of these things are tied to Cuba and Venezuela and everything else because it's all part of the same layer.
Fuckery Incorporated.
Yeah, literally, it's all. This is the war. This is the real war at a higher level. And then what we're arguing is over, as always, is what's happening tactically on the ground, as opposed to looking at the overall arch of the thing, which is that the Strait of Hormuz is being degraded as a choke point on the global economy. Pipelines are being built, deals are being made. Look at what's going on in Iraq, for example, is a perfect example of what's going on in Iraq, right? That Iraq is getting out from underneath the IRGC slowly but surely by degrees. But every one of these things has been, every round of this is uncovering another layer, right? And Netanyahu, I'll be honest with you, I think some of his behavior can easily be explained by the following statement. He doesn't know whether Trump is going to win against the globalist, quote unquote, globalist forces that he's fighting against. Right. And so therefore,
a legitimate fear.
Right. It's
I think that's fear. Right. I think that's right.
And then if you just look at Netanyahu as both, well, I don't know what to do other than try. If you take the argument, and this is not my personal opinion. This is an analysis. If you start with Netanyahu as an Israeli patriot, okay, you don't have to agree with it, but just go with the premise.
No. I think I don't have any trouble with the idea he's acting as I'm actually, in self-interest. Right.
I'm actually talking more to the audience than I am to you, Dave, to be honest with you, when I say this. So if you take that argument and you say, well, Trump is under siege at home, he's under siege overseas, he's got all these other problems. And if he loses the midterms, if he loses 2028, how is that going to leave Israel? So you kind of almost have to look at it from his perspective of, we have to get rid of.
I want to be in that camp.
Which camp do I want to be in? Who's going to win? Yeah. And if you fully repudiate that European, London, NATO access, because if they get control of the United States post 2028, I got news for you, then Israel's completely fucked. So if you're him, you keep one foot in both camps. But unfortunately, what Trump has been doing is forcing Netanyahu to take a side, because now he's like schmoozing Erdogan in Turkey. Now he's building, he's working with the Syrians. He's working with Lebanon. He's trying to get a legitimate government back in power in Lebanon, not have it be Hezbollah. He's, and this is what he says when he says things to Bibi like, look, you don't get to bomb an apartment building to get one Hezbollah guy. That's not acceptable behavior.
Yeah, he's quoting Dave Smith verbatim.
Well, fine. I'm okay with that. If Dave Smith actually said that,
it's a statement that stands.
I actually agree with Dave Smith on. But the point is that it's a hideously complex situation where you're trying to affect a long-term outcome. To Jim's point, yes, he's offering cake to everybody. The Abraham Accords. Let's rebuild this place. Let's get everybody out of this permanent conflict mode. And the people who were put in place to create the conflict and keep the conflict, because they make money off the conflict, they continue to have global power in the conflict as by virtue of that conflict being eternal. They're the ones who are the hidden hand.
So you're talking about the industrial military complex in the most broadest terms.
The EU.
And they're part of it.
Yeah.
The power elite.
But the guy's making money.
The power elite.
The way I would put it is, it's the high table from
the satanic cannibals.
Yeah, it's the high table, and the European London seats at the high table have a hand in this. They have a different agenda than the American table, than the Russian table, than the Chinese table. The seats at the high table, and they're all fighting amongst themselves, and that's what's going on here. And I would be less convinced that that's what's going on. I would be more sympathetic to those who say Iran is winning and beating the United States if the Chinese and the Russians were really helping. But they're, for the most part, going, nope, we're out.
Yeah, they're doing token intelligence. They're not throwing their weight behind
very,
them.
very little. And the bigger one is that if you really bracket out you're like, well, as I've said many times, there are four major regional powers: the United States, Europe, Russia, and China. Three of them hate the fourth. And yes, I'm putting that one up on purpose. So
I hadn't noticed, Tom.
You could say
right?
China and Russia are almost in a similar spot of Israel in terms of not knowing who's going to win. And so they're going to Iran. Right. They're like, we'll give you some satellite data, but we're not sure if you're going to make it.
And we're going to stay out of it. And notice how this. And here's another interesting tell.
God, they're all just back to everyone's such a faggot. Nobody can commit. Sorry. So I'm just like, choose your homies, but that's why.
Well, they can't commit because the United States is a fallen country, and is institutionally paralyzed at this moment in time. John Thune, the undead Mitch McConnell.
I was talking about every country at large.
Is he alive? Is he alive? Let me just insert that question.
I don't think so. I don't think he's been alive for 3 years.
Sighting? I thought I saw a sighting this morning.
Well, Andy Bashir, the governor, went kind of batshit today. Trying to put the squeeze on McConnell's aides to prove that he can speak to his
come constituents. Up with another AI vision.
Well, Andy Bashir doesn't want McConnell's staff people to drag out the question of his being alive past a certain date in August, which would otherwise require the August 3rd.
The fact that this is even
it would require them to have a special election if he's declared.
He's alive. We're not showing you. It's like this is such a.
Yeah, no, and so because of that, this is literally the problem with the whole midterm elections thing. So everybody is trying to extend and pretend and hold on to the status quo and then hope that they win. Why is our Senate against the Save America Act? Why is Elizabeth Warren screaming about the fucking Clarity Act? Because she knows that, the minute that we can change the United States monetary system to a treasury-based one with stable coins as opposed to the old Eurodollar system and with the Federal Reserve at the center, again, going back to the things I talked about with Heaven Walsh earlier, this is the way I'm reading it all. And it's hideously complex, and it's almost impossible for anybody. I think I understand it. I can barely communicate it to you guys. Can you imagine Trump trying
I wouldn't hold that against you.
Right. Well, no.
Part of your critical model, the Strait of Hormuz, part of your critical model is not only can it be rendered obsolete, but it can be rendered obsolete on a reasonable time scale. That's part of your model, correct?
I think that's real. We're looking at I did some writing I was doing. Right. So last week I sat down with Grok and I said, okay, talk to me about the number of pipeline deals and expansions and all the stuff that's on the table to get around the Strait of Hormuz. And he gave me a list. Most of them we already know. Obviously, the east-west one that's going across Saudi Arabia now at full power. The UAE one to Fujairah that by the end of next year, that's going to double in capacity to 3.5 million barrels a day. There are other ones coming from Iraq to Syria and Jordan, and there's a variety of them are out there. Iraq actually has 3 big projects in the mix already. There are other ones that people want to move forward. Obviously, IMEC, the Israeli Middle East corridor or India, the one that goes from India through southern Iran into
Syria.
Yeah, in Syria and into Haifa. Right. There's other things. There's a lot of stuff here. And we're just reroute around the Strait of most of the Strait of Hormuz. You can't do much with Qatar's natural gas fields necessarily, or some of this stuff. But again, if you reroute around it and you say, okay, we're just going to continue to reroute around it. If you guys are not going to be reasonable and choose cake versus death, then then the free market, relatively in this case, at the country level is going to then
our way around your sorry ass, right?
Exactly. And so that's why you see them refusing to validate any negotiations that Trump and the Iranian negotiators are pulling off. They won't validate those, and they still think they have enough power. So, and that's where we are right now. And I think the same thing. I think it's the same thing as that's going on in Ukraine. Ukraine is trying to negotiate maximal settlement for a war they've already effectively lost. They've lost most of the Donbass. They're never going to get it back.
But Europe doesn't want to let them negotiate, I don't think.
No, they don't.
Well, Europe is entering a period of turmoil too. Then don't underestimate how difficult that's going to be. Well, I mean, look at they just switched out prime minister in the UK. The new guy's obviously a Ponce. He's probably not going to last any longer than Keir Starmer or maybe even Liz Truss. Marine Le Pen just got the green light to run for president in France, and she'll probably get elected. Friedrich Merz is not. He's a horse that ain't going to finish in Germany, and the Dutch don't even have a functioning government. And Melania has screwed the pooch in her country, so they're all going down.
And Germany's economy, which is the core of Europe, has been obliterated.
Right, and then what happens to their bond and debt system? As that occurs.
I don't know.
That's all on the table. So let's start with a couple other interesting data points. AfD in Germany is now the largest party in Berlin. Yeah, that's a big one because the rest of that province, I think was it Brandenburg or whatever. Brandenburg has been solidly AfD for years, but Berlin not. That was a big deal. So Merz then had to turn around and shuffle his cabinet. I got news from I have a German patron who keeps me up to date on everything that's happening. He spams me like 10 headlines a day out of Germany, so I get to see all this stuff. And then Andy Burnham actually is an interesting problem in the UK because it's clear that Trump got rid of Keir Starmer at the G7 meeting. He walked in, handed him the folder and said, "You're done and you're gone." And then Andy Burnham immediately turns around while still spouting that he's a lefty from Birmingham and everything else. Interestingly enough, like 5 or 6 things come out of his mouth. We're going to open up the North Slope. We're not going to institute this. We're not going to do this. Like it's all these like kind of Trumpian measures. And you're like, isn't that interesting? I wonder who's the bitch there and who's the butch. Like, and this is the...
This is not for children.
Yeah, no, this one's never for children.
What are you talking about? None of these have ever been for children. Smoking.
The last thing to think about is that Burnham is not governing from 10 Downing Street. King Charles has left Buckingham Palace.
Did you say fucking kids in Buckingham Palace? Did you say that?
No, I did not
too.
I
thought I heard you say fucking kids in Buckingham Palace.
Well, he is.
But he's moved now out of London, and nobody is governing in London anymore. And the thing I would say is, oh, really? So maybe it's because like the East Wing of the White House, and Air Force One is so chock full of friggin' bugs and intelligence assets and service and everything else. Like, no, we have to negotiate. We have to be able to govern kind of in peace and away from the center, quote unquote, center of power. It's an interesting argument. I'm not sold on that argument, but it's like we have some disconcerting data points.
This world is in a very precarious situation.
I was about to say, if you could almost move past anxiety, past panic, you can almost dissociate into a point of humor. I'm thinking
of starting to take SNRIs to see if I can.
Maybe that's the move, man. Like I'm just like, is Mitch McConnell dead? Do we have proof of life? Is the military creating AGI? And who the fuck's running London? And is Israel have USA or does the USA have Israel? It is kind of funny
and who killed Lindsey Graham?
Yeah, and who killed Lindsey Graham? And is Charlie Kirk with Graham? Did Graham kill Charlie? Like at what point is Epstein still like? At some point you do kind of start laughing, and I don't think it's a good humor. I think it's the same humor of those guys that were laughing in the trenches in World War I. It's total break with reality.
It's like in Tom Hanks in The Money Pit, where the entire bathtub drops to the next floor, and he bursts out laughing.
It is.
Right? He bursts out laughing.
It's kind of funny as a defense mechanism.
What I would say is, we still have agency in all this, folks.
But it's
what version of reality do you want to live in?
That's a good point. If none of it's real and it's all fucked,
spend your time trying to make that real. Yeah. That's what I do.
Yeah,
and trying to figure it out. Because I'd rather choose. Because at the end of the day, I'm still, I'm not particularly a religious man, and I'm certainly not any kind of spirit. Do I have much in the way of spirituality? But I do kind of think that at some point we all said, you know what, I don't want I don't want to live in the world where Donald Trump gets his head blown off on CNN.
Yeah.
So I chose that timeline. And so while this timeline is fucked, it's at least entertaining and it's maybe going in the right direction.
Well, there's an upside. If all the connective tissue is falling apart and all of the hard and fast anchors are falling around, the upside is well, no one's telling you can't make it better. If it's all fucked and no one knows which way is up.
Someone posted a tweet the other day. They said, just in case, every day when I walk out the door, I say, computer stop program.
Yeah.
Just in case.
Just in case, all of a sudden everything just stops.
And here's the better one. Ready? The world they want for us is that first, in order for you to go out the door to be able to say that in the first place, you got to give the door a tip.
Yeah.
And that's the world. And that's the world Philip K. Dick told us was coming. And now they want to put cameras in our cars to tell us the car gets to tell us whether or not we're capable of driving or not.
Did you see the meme where the guys were running from a tornado and they couldn't start their car because the car determined that they were too agitated to drive?
No, I didn't see that, but oh my God. Yeah, that's the world we're going to, that is literally Act 3 of Atlas.
There's going to be a big market for late model used cars starting in 2027.
It's already starting.
Yeah.
Like I'm
right?
watching YouTube videos of Gen Z kids buying 25-year-old cars and going, I want analog.
I want an analog. I want a Corvair.
I want a mid 90s fucking, mechanical diesel pickup truck from the used market for like old Ram battle wagons or whatever the hell they call them, with the mechanical Cummins diesels.
El Camino.
Yes, they want those too. Yeah, like that's coming, and because they're like, I don't want this shit either. So
hey, the Dow really tanked in the last hour.
To us?
Yeah,
you know who will sell us the El Caminos?
Cuba.
Yeah, exactly.
Cuba. Man,
they have all the old cars.
JFK's plan all along. He foresaw it.
The Dow and NASDAQ. What did happen there? Did
they're watching the show?
Did War start making armpit noises with his hand? Is that what did happen there?
No, I think it's to your point, Dave, that capital is moving around. We're just
definitely moving around.
It's churn. We're in the churn. We're now in to invoke Amos from The Expanse. We're now in the churn.
By the way, of all the pundits of the world, Lacey Hunt just came out and said he's expecting serious inflation now. And he's been a deflationist for as long as I've been alive. Mm-hmm. I had a funny exchange with him one day where he was he used to say things that sounded awful to me. And I sit there thinking, he said it so calmly, and that sounds really bad. And then I started to notice he started to seem panicky. And I sent him an email and I said, Lacey, your mood has changed lately. Mm-hmm. Am I correct? And he says, yes, you are correct. My wife is insisting I take a vacation now. So he's getting nervous about what he's seeing, and he's now calling for inflation, which if Lacey Hunt's calling for inflation, either it's a contrary indicator or we are fucked.
Yeah, I think you got to give him to the madness and just laugh at it. It's hitting a fever pitch where you're just like,
yeah, and it may all come unraveled. Let me put it this way: there's a lot of people out there that want it to all come unraveled between now and the midterms. And then the question there is, who makes the first move? Because no one wants to make the first move. Because then when you make the first move operationally, then your opponent can respond to you. And what you're noticing is that we're kind of at a point where everybody is like putting their assets in place, it
is a game of musical chairs, and everyone's kind of looking at each other, and they all have thermonuclear weapons strapped to their dicks.
We're all checking to the river on this one. If you're playing Texas Hold'em, but the river card's coming.
Yeah,
and then you're gonna have
the good, the bad, and the ugly.
That's what I mean. It's like it is like a haze. It is like a feeling of you're just watching it. And man, there's nothing else to do, I think, but laugh. I mean, like genuinely. And I think if it's all fucked, and I truly believe this, then there's an equal % chance it'll work out. I'm with Tom. I mean, if it's all upside down backwards,
then I'm gonna vote for. We still have agency to do the right to do some cool things.
Technically, we've had more agency now than ever. If all this shit's falling down, if the parapets are collapsing and the guard towers are watching, you could go, "Oh my God, the prison is all orders breaking out," or you could go, "Hey, the prison's breaking down." You're like, "Oh, I forgot we do live here, and I don't want to be here."
The guard isn't getting paid either.
No one in the prison gets upset when the power goes out and the walls break. They're not like, "Oh my God!" If they're all like, "Wait, let's get the fuck out of here."
Yeah, let's leave.
Yeah.
So there you go.
Well, this is always an optimistic show and leaves me
Escape from New York. By the way, someone was grilling me on SpaceX, and they said, "Well, what would you buy it at? 30?" And I go, "Well, based on current price of sales, $3 would be a semi-reasonable price." I mean, the markets are the problem with the markets right now is they're a Jenga tower. You've got the AI bubble perched on top of an equity bubble perched on top of private equity and private credit perched on top of real estate bubble, right? We've never had such an alignment of bubbles as this. Every one of these bubbles would be considered a sort of sanity threatening bubble. And once one goes, it's not like the others are going to sit around and say, "Well, then we don't have to blow up." It's really going to be a domino.
So what the fuck? What else is there to do but just fucking laugh at it, man?
Well, and hope gold works.
Have a gun, have some Valium, and have a good sense of humor. Gold, goats, and
guns.
Yeah.
Tom's paying me for that ad insert.
Gold to buy the guns and the goats for your sex life.
Yeah.
I know. Do goats have good personalities? I don't know anything about goats.
Yeah, that's why you have a gun in case it doesn't like
cookies and make their own clothes.
Are they like dogs?
They
dogs?
are. They're like really ugly dogs. No, they are. They have tremendous personalities. They're very smart. They're very personable. They're very cool.
They know you. They say hi to you.
Okay. Oh my God.
Okay.
I used to, when you have dairy goats and you have to I've talked about this before. When you have dairy goats and you have to raise them and everything else, once you speak goat, you're like, "Oh my God." My wife used to be jealous about how much my dairy goats loved me, because when I show up, they would their tails would twitch and they would just be happy. Their ears would be up. They'd see me, they'd see her, their hackles would go up, their ears would go down, their ears would go forward, and they were like, "Oh, goddamn, she's
my
here."
son told me Boston Terriers have two personalities, this and this.
Yes. Terriers in general. Yeah. Terriers in general.
And how do farmers handle the fact that they have kids who raise farm animals and then they have to eat them? I would think that farmers might make a deal saying, "Okay, I'll tell you what, our pet pig, let's trade it for your pet pig so we don't have to eat our pet pig." Do they do anything like that?
No, I think those kids are, very early on, they're like, "Yeah, that's how the world works." I think they're just not pussies.
Okay. Well, the big one is first rule of a farm: there are no pets on a farm.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think that's what
they're all working animals. They're all working animals. You love them, you take care of them, you give them names and everything else,
and then you eat them.
Yeah.
Do you eat goat? Do you eat the goat?
Oh yeah, we used to slaughter our own goats and eat them.
Okay.
Would you fuck a goat?
No.
She's too ugly.
Yeah, she's too ugly for me. Why are there clips in Scotland?
Yeah, I know.
So the sheep's pushed back.
One thing you can say about goats is at least they don't go out and get tattoos.
Yeah, no, they're lovely. They're actually lovely creatures. We have a longer. The only animal we have a longer relationship with historically than the dog is the goat.
How long does the goat last? How long? What's the average time
between 10 and 12 years is the average lifespan of a goat.
And the output of the goat is the fur.
Well, it can be meat, milk, or fur, or all three, depending on the breed.
The meat part is at the end of 12 years, I presume. Is that?
Well, it depends. If you're talking about you want
roast kid is not 12 years.
Yeah, right. It all depends. It all depends. It's just like cows.
I got it.
Like
is it a dairy cow or a beef cow? Right.
How about this? A 9-year-old cow is hamburger. It's not steak.
Right.
Because all animals get tougher as they get older.
Right.
So.
Right.
Okay.
Right. Said the cannibal.
I'm hamburger.
Said the satanic cannibal.
And dairy goats don't put any meat on because they've been optimized
to put out
genetically
milk.
to put out milk, so they're skinny and they eventually just die. They eventually just eat.
Yeah, these Holstein cows
with,
around here look like they have furniture inside. Their bones are sticking out. So
what do you do with a dead spent? What's the next step? What happens to one of those?
What usually happens is what I did, when they reach beyond the lifespan where you can breed them anymore and all that, if you're kind like I was, you hold on to them and you just let them graze, and then when they get eaten up with cancer, you dig a hole and you shoot them.
Right.
Which is hard.
It was sounding real touchy feely until that last part, but
it's still that. It's no different than putting a dog down.
I just had to put a dog down. I just had to put one down.
No,
so
it's awful, and I had one, my first dairy goat. That was hard. She was.
But there must be a market for used goats, used cows for dogs.
Yeah, there are. I mean, and you can still, if you really want to, you can harvest the hide. I mean, goat hides are great, and even dairy goat. Yeah, so they get turned into drum heads and leather and all sorts of stuff. But so
you've now increased my knowledge of goats by about 10 orders of magnitude.
I could keep going, but this podcast has already gone on too long.
Gonna say, we're at 2.5 hours, and we're done.
So Jim's got chickens to choke. So
Jim's got chickens to choke and goats to fuck. And
well, it was good to see you guys. It was good to chat.
Yeah,
I think this one was fun.
It was a pleasure as always.
Yeah, I'm just telling you, what title do I make to not kick?
And I would like to thank the 3 listeners who've stuck it out this far.
That's very, very favorable. You think there's at least 3?
Yeah.
There's just 3.
There ain't 3. No, it's the other. There's 3 listeners. It's one of us.
Can you watch them drop off? Can you watch them drop off?
No, I don't do it live. Fuck them.
No.
When I put it up, yeah, you can see the retention and drop off. Yeah, but even that I don't look at because I treat them like goats and cattle. I don't care.
My wife wanted
my
to figure out how to get
you.
My wife wanted to find out how to get the stats on her Osprey blog. And I stonewalled her because I was worried that the stats would basically tell her stop writing.
Right. Yeah, well, that's also the other thing is I just don't look at any of the stats. I don't want to know which shows do well and which don't. I don't care. I don't care. If it shows I don't like do well, but I'm going to start doing shows I don't like. No.
I go to the comments section to find out how many people want me to change my shirt.
Don't even do that.
They always want me to change my shirt.
I don't look at anything. I treat it like factory farming. I don't watch the goddamn show, watch the ad, give me a penny. I don't want to hear your feedback. I don't care. Like Tom said, when they're done, I take them out and I dig a hole and I shoot them in the back of the head.
FYI, I let you guys talk for the first 20 minutes tonight, this afternoon on purpose, because so that
to watch the comment section.
To watch the comment section.
And
you guys take care.
Gentlemen, we'll wrap it up. As always, thank you.
Tom talks too much.
Thank you so much, everybody. Thank you for watching.